Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom, I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with, giving my blood, so I am relentless.
This is a Keep Hammering Collective. That was the official start.
Okay.
That's like my clapper.
There you go.
And I'm here with Ben Blankenship. How you doing?
Good. I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I feel like this is going to be the average guy podcast.
Oh, man. I mean, I know you've said that, but the average guy doesn't run the Olympics. Just, I don't know if you knew that, but... Because
the average guy that keeps showing up does.
Oh, really? Well, you've got an amazing story. I was doing some research this morning on you. I like this quote, or let me think. I think Let's Run was doing an interview with you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And
this is the problem with the internet. Things stick around.
Yeah, forever. But no, this was good. So the question was, biggest thing you've learned this year. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, it said, you just got to be tough. Every time you get out there, it's always hard. There are no real free rides in this sport. Maybe some races feel better than others, but they're all pretty tough and they're all pretty hard. Physically, you've just got to be prepared to get your ass kicked every time you get out there. So that's running to you?
That's running to me. It's running 101.
Yeah. But I think that I read that this morning, then I was thinking about, you know, you've went from the Olympics where you ran in the 1500 in Rio.
Yeah.
So that was 3 minutes and what was it? We
were slow. You had Centro on. Centro was the winner of that one.
Was it? It wasn't over 4 minutes, though, was it?
No, it was like 3:40-ish.
Yeah. So I mean, so 3 minutes. But then you just this last weekend did a 100-miler. Yeah. Which lasted, I'm pretty sure, longer than 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like that long.
Really?
Yeah, it went by really quick.
So I was just been interested to hear the difference between performing. I mean, in that quote, you said everything's hard. Running's always hard. But tell me the difference between a 3 minute and 40-second performance where, it probably wasn't hard for, 2 minutes of it?
I think it's hard the whole time.
Just because of the pressure or what?
You're playing, theoretically, the best chess match of your life, especially when it's tactical like that. Every mistake is going to be amplified, and it's a race of meters versus a race of miles. And I think both of them are very similar, but yet very different.
So you say even like the cruise at a comfortable pace, even every yard of that or meter is hard, right?
Yeah.
And is it just because you're like thinking so much about what it means and like how you fit in the puzzle?
Yeah, and you're really, to be a great runner, you're studying everybody else. At that level, you have to figure out what everybody else's like ticks are. And I think the one thing that I was really good at was figuring out like, how is everybody else feeling compared to myself? That was the one thing that I was good at. I wasn't good at very much, but that was the one thing I could kind of figure out, like, how is everybody else feeling?
So just like during the race, you could either sense it just from a tell or something, or how they were carrying themselves, or a little. So you tell me if this is anywhere close to what you're talking about. But I used to always, it would be to motivate my kids, or to like sometimes guys would be talking shit at work, so I'd take the kids and the guys who were talking shit over to Pisgah, and I'd say, okay, let's run. And I'd tell my boys, I said, just make sure you beat whoever we bring over here, just to remind them, you know. And one of them, Truett, told me that he was racing this guy for my work, and the guy he was spitting, and Truett's like, I knew when he started to spit,
he was hurting.
He was hurting. Yeah. And so, is it like that?
I think sometimes. I think it's really subtle. Yeah. I think like in a race, like the Olympic final, right? It's all about where you're going to be positioned and utilizing the least amount of energy, whether it's in your brain or really physically. And for such a tactical race, like if you look at that final, I think I was probably the one with the least experience. I was the slowest guy in the field, most likely, and I was just trying to fit into the puzzle. And I will say that, like, I look back and I'd say that's probably the one race that I felt like I had the opportunity to do something big and bold and dumb, and I didn't. And it was very unbrand of me. It was like the one opportunity just to be like, hell with it. Let's go do something big and dumb. And it probably won't work, but who cares?
Because that's been your mantra pretty much running, right?
Big and dumb, and it won't work.
So then what happened? Did you overthink it, or was it the moment?
I think it was the moment. It was the one time in my life where like the moment kind of got me, and I was like, I would rather be in the middle than last.
Right.
And I don't know why I thought that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's self-preservation, natural.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to ever be last.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, that's interesting too. I haven't thought about it like that, but so if you look at somebody like, I don't know, somebody say just Centro, but if you were running and you're all in great, phenomenal shape, but if you're thinking about maybe he was in that position and he just was like, felt so relaxed, so he wasn't wasting those, like the nervous system tax, thinking about different things, just like felt more comfortable. And maybe you were just like, man, what should I do? Or, I mean, it's not a physical exertion, but it is taxing your system.
Totally.
And when you're all so elite, if you're taxing your system more than the next guy, just even like mentally, that probably.
And then you make mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought about, because, what I do is like the big miles, and it's like, you have plenty of time to work shit out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you only have 3 minutes and 40 seconds, it's like, you can't be dicking around too long.
Yeah. No, you have a couple mistakes, but not very many.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, I mean, I'm curious too. Did you expect to ever get to the Olympics when you, as a young runner?
No, I'm not motivated that way.
Really?
I didn't grow up. I didn't come from like a running background. My parents didn't know much, which was really helpful, I think, to me and where kind of my timeline. But I'm really goal oriented and I'm really competitive. So it was like, let's be competitive in this race and let's go to the next. I'm really on to the next thing.
Just
like,
one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And then it just ended up the Olympics. You took that attitude.
Yeah, I think like I came out of college, had a few opportunities. I made a U.S. final, and it was like, let's make a world team. And then in 2015, I was 4th. And the next step was like, let's make the Olympic team. And then after that, it was like, let's do something else. Let's do something else. And then I run 100 miles. And now it's like, what are we going to do next? What's the next project?
Oh, what is the next project?
I don't know. I'm going to run Grand Traverse later this summer. And then I don't know yet. I really enjoyed the 100-mile distance.
Did you?
Yeah. You
liked it?
I liked it.
God, okay. I don't want to forget that part, but you did mention you got 4th at the World Championship, which is kind of like a footnote in your story you just said. So 4th means you didn't make the team.
I didn't make the team. Yeah.
So the top 3 go.
Yeah.
That 4th is, would you rather be last than 4th? I don't know.
I don't know. I think that year I ran probably the best race I could run. I made a couple little mistakes.
Good.
It felt really good, and it was super motivating.
Wasn't it like you were right behind 3rd, right?
Yeah, like Leo and I came to the line together, and then we had to watch that stupid scoreboard for a lifetime, waiting. And I knew it. I knew it in my heart that I was 4th. Like, you feel it, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's a millionth of a second, you know.
That presence of that runner.
You're like,
I think he's a little ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And waiting for our names to unfold, and it was like, okay, I have 1 year to redeem myself. And then 12 hours later we started training for the next year.
And wasn't it 4th by 1,000th of a second?
Yeah,
was that right?
It was really close. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter if I was 4th by a mile or by that little.
I know, but that is like,
it kept it exciting.
Yeah, I bet. So I was curious about this too. So did you guys dive, or what was it at the end?
No, we kind of like did like a really crappy distance runner lean, right? Like we were both pretty fatigued. And it was like anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I'm curious, when it comes, how you always say, or people always say, leave it all on the track, or give all you got. But to me, I don't know, it's so hard. Like, people say all the time, I did the best I could, right? I gave it all. But who knows?
Yeah.
who really ever knows if you gave, because to me, and it's so easy to say, it was like, oh, well, were you puking and did you collapse?
Yeah.
No. Then did you give it all?
Yeah.
So how do you give it all and not
I don't know.
just be taxed out? Because you never see it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never lived by those mottos, I guess. I haven't been able to figure those out. Like, I feel like so many people in my life are like, man, you work really hard. And I've been around people who have worked really hard.
Yeah.
Like Sarah Hall. She's a great example.
Oh, man.
If I could work 10% as hard as she did, I would be phenomenal.
What do you mean? How does she work hard?
She's
compared
dedicated.
to others?
She's extremely dedicated. She's awake for, let's say, 10 hours a day, and 9 hours of those 10 hours is getting better at running. And if I could do 90 minutes of like getting better at running, I would be much better.
Yeah. So yeah, I know. That is, yeah, she's been like pretty obsessed with making an Olympic team, right? Yeah.
And like, I think she's been in the sport for so long. She was really good out of high school, and now 20 years later, she's still at the cutting edge of running.
Right there.
And that is unbelievable, mentally and physically.
Yeah, just to be able to keep showing up for that long. Because it's exhausting, not just physically exhausting, but just like thinking about it all the time.
And to keep yourself motivated to still show up. Like I was really ready to be done with the track. Like I got to the end of my track and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't even want to run on the track.
Really?
Because I couldn't change it up and still have fun.
Right.
I'm very motivated by like two things. One is having fun, and the other one's like conquering new challenges. And if one of those two kind of get boring, then I'm ready to move on to the next thing.
Right. Yeah. It's I don't know what that, everybody sees the glamour of, like, you watch the Olympics and it looks incredible.
Yeah. Every 4 years though.
Every 4 years. And for you, and you had a long time, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Imagine the 100, 9 seconds, 9 seconds every 4 years.
Yeah.
That would be, I don't know. And there, especially when you talk about how every meter counts, if they have a shitty start,
it's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
So it's just that reaction time. I mean, that must be really hard to reason in your head that it could come down to just your reaction.
Yeah.
And then
we've talked about this, I think, on a run where time moves so different for very many for different people.
Right.
And I think when you're out there and you're a really good sprinter, it's a lifetime.
Yeah, that 9 seconds.
It's a lifetime. Coming out of the blocks is a whole different world.
That's its own race, probably.
It's its own race.
In their heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's other little races, right? It's like, how do I come out of the dry phase? Am I going to keep accelerating? And then how do I hold my top end speed? And I think when you start breaking it down, those 9 seconds turns into an all day affair.
Yeah.
Even though when we watch it on television, it goes super fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of glamour and rightfully so, being an Olympic athlete. But yeah, it probably would be hard that it's only every 4 years and it requires so much sacrifice to get there, even just to get there. And then all the qualifying rounds, trying to be healthy, trying to be at your best on that one random day, basically, out of your life. Man.
Yeah.
And, you talked about Sarah. She ran a great race in just like a month ago or whatever it was in the Olympic marathon trials, and did incredible. Is she 40?
Yeah, she's 40 plus, I think, or right around there.
And was just right on the cusp of that team.
Yeah.
I think 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
But close.
Close, yeah. But she's done so many cool things. And I think one thing in our sport we get so wrong is this Olympics becomes the Everest of everything. And it's so defining, right? It's like, oh, you made an Olympic final. Sure, but I've also run in that same race with those same kind of people dozens of times.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we've always got caught up in like track and field is about the Olympics, where there's so many amazing events. And for us, I always feel like it puts us in this position where either you're an Olympian or you're not. And that's success or it's not success.
Right.
And I remember talking to some random guy a little while ago, and I looked up to Ryan Hall almost my entire career. He was just kind of a badass guy, did some really cool stuff, but always did it kind of his own way.
This is Sarah's husband.
Sarah's husband, yeah. And he made 2 Olympic teams. He won the trials. He's run faster than anybody else. And the guy's quote was, Ryan really never lived up to his potential.
Oh my!
And it's what? Like, well, he made 2 Olympic teams, and I think like it's very true. It's like, well, you made 1, and that's probably kind of luck. 2, you're okay. If you make 3, you're probably okay. Like you're pretty good.
So basically, it's never enough.
It's never enough.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's never. So I guess to your point, then the satisfaction has to be from within.
Yeah.
Because people on the outside, they can always throw stones at something.
Yeah.
You know, potential. I mean, what does potential mean anyway?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge track fan, which is like living here in Eugene. That's kind of a prerequisite, it seems like. And I love the big track meets. I love going and seeing athletes like yourself perform. But yeah, I mean, I oftentimes think about how difficult that is, and just like anything from the outside, it looks great.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it looks like, oh man, all they do is run and be fit and get attention and make money, and man,
I think like one of those 3 things is true. It's like we do a lot of running. I don't think we make much money, and the attention is very, fleeting.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, but there would be just a fact. There has to be some honor in that you've been an Olympian. I mean, that's a big thing, but that wouldn't be a life-defining thing.
No,
I mean,
and it feels like a lifetime ago.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2016. So what are we? 8 years?
Yeah.
I think I read in that same article. I wonder what I don't know. So 2012, you were hurt, or you're doing construction or something.
I was hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. You got out of college.
Yeah.
Then you had to have surgery on a femoral thing.
Yeah, it was like everything, right? Surgeries come in phases, and doctors love to be like, "Oh, this is the new thing that'll fix you."
Yeah,
I probably could have just like done some strength training and learned. I think one thing in my career that I was really lucky about was I met some incredible people, and those incredible people got me where I am today. One of those people, I came out of college and I was broken and lost, and I didn't know what I was going to keep doing. I was really only good at running. School I sucked at. And I met a guy named John Ball, and I stayed with him in Phoenix for months. I just like kept showing up. And
this is a story where you just showed up and you had to sit in this chair for hours. So tell me what that.
Yeah. So a lot of people kind of recommended, hey, go see John. He's awesome. And
it's like a running guru type thing, or performance, or what?
Yeah, he became everything to me, pretty much my whole career, and even to today. Like he was a sounding board. He was he's somebody that I would call and be like, hey, I have this idea. He'd be like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. And I was like, okay, great. I know I'm on the right track now. And he put so much time and so much effort into me. And I think he was one of the only people at the time that actually believed that I was going to get better. And he took me I was running probably like a mile in like sheer pain. And I was like, I can run more.
Where was it hurting?
Pretty much everywhere. I was so broken at that point. Like I had gone through this cycle of like, I got surgery. I wanted to come back for the trials. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to run a ton. I'll get better. And then I'd get hurt. I'd have a stress fracture. I'd do something. I'd take time off. And I'd be like, okay, let's go back full blast. And then I'd get hurt again. And then pretty much at the end of 2012-ish, I was like, well, this isn't going to work. Like I'm not very good anymore. And I had a great career. That was super fun. Like, let's go do something else. And I ended up down at John's office, and he just kept working on me. And it was just like kind of the middle of the night once he had seen all his patients for the day, and he just like kept investing in me. And it was like, let's do a little bit of running. Let's do a little bit more running. And I spent pretty much all, I don't know, whatever timeline, months down there. And it went from like putting together 1 mile on and off the treadmill, and him watching me run and like, hey, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this to get this better. And I didn't understand any of it at the time. I was
Is
just
he a
like,
doctor?
He was pretty much a chiro in the beginning. Okay. And then he threw all that out the window and just was like, let's get back down to the basics. The basics is like, you're super tight here. Let's fix that to fix these other problems. And it worked. Wow. And it continued to work.
I wonder why he believed in you so much.
I have no idea. I don't think he'll ever tell me.
Maybe he just felt sorry for you.
And I think it was a project. I came in so broken, and I think it was like a big challenge for him. Like if I can get this guy,
because if you couldn't do a mile,
I couldn't run a mile, not a good mile. I could like tough through a mile at like 9-minute pace. And I think it was like the project of like, if I can take this guy with zero hope and zero talent and zero ability to do anything at this point and get him back to running, it'll be amazing.
It's a story of overcoming adversity, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, so I wonder why you're so broken. Was it, were you a lot lighter than you are? Do you think it was like a diet thing too, or overtraining, or what?
I think a lot of it was just like I kept putting myself in a hole. Like I just kept running through things, thinking that like, oh, I can handle this little bit of pain, and then like I'd have a stress fracture, and I'd be like, I can kind of like run through some of it, and then I just didn't know anything. I didn't know like anything, and so I didn't do any like gym work. I just ran more. Like the solution to all my problems always as anybody was like, I'll just run more and I'll get better.
Yeah, I do understand that, because sometimes when you don't know what to do, you feel like, well, if I just work, if running is like punching the time clock, okay, I just got to get to work.
Yeah.
And it kind of masks a lot of other things, but you feel like you're going in the right direction because you're hurting. That feels like a sacrifice.
Exactly.
You're getting in miles, you're working up a sweat. There's a lot of positives to that effort. But if your body isn't working correctly, then it's not going to go. That won't go away.
No.
Huh. That's interesting. I mean, so when did you finally see some like big results from that? Just slowly, or did you have like a breakout moment?
It was slow, and I think I moved to Eugene, and people believed in me. Mark Rowland, he was the coach of the Oregon Track Club at that point, believed in me, and I have no idea why he believed in me. He was like, hey, show up and like get some work done. And that was awesome to have somebody who did that. But it was a really slow evolutionary process for myself. It was like, let's put together a season. I did that. Let's make a US final. We did that. Then it was like, let's make a world team. We just missed out. And then the next step was like, let's make an Olympic team. And I was like, okay, let's try to do that. And then it was like, I want to be as competitive as I possibly can at the world level. But as a kid, I never thought about any of that. It was like, let's just go out and run. Let's have fun.
Yeah. So to that point, then when you're a kid, have you always run? I mean,
it was the first thing that I was good at. It was the first and only thing I was good at.
When did you realize that?
So my mom dragged me to an all-comers meet. We had just moved to a new town. I was this super dorky kid, so not much has changed. And she dragged me to this all-comers meet, and she put me in the mile. And I was like the only kid in the mile. And I had no idea how far a mile was. So I was just like running around the track. And a couple of the older like high school guys ran with me because I was like the dorky kid by himself out there, you know? And that was kind of awesome. I was like, okay, cool. And then I was like, I never want to run again. Don't put me in that position, Mom. That sucked. Thanks. And then it wasn't really until I got to like kind of the high school, like 8th, 9th grade level that like I started running. And then I was immediately good at it. And then I felt weird that I was so good at it because I hadn't been good at anything else in my life.
You didn't know how to, what would I say? Internalize it, or I mean, you're actually good at something.
Yeah.
So you were like, maybe, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you were just like so lacked confidence.
Oh, totally.
Kind of walking around like feeling judged, and then all of a sudden now you're the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, wait, now I'm good at this.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even have to try at this point. Like I'm just good. Like why am I good at this?
Yeah. So I understand how that might be so much different than what you thought of yourself, and now all of a sudden you were standing out for a cool reason.
Yeah. I don't know if it's cool, but I think like anytime you find something that you're good at, it feels good.
Yeah.
like it gives you that confidence, internal confidence. And that really has been something I've really like dug into.
Yeah. And then, so that started at 9th or 10th grade or something. Yeah. Then how did your running take off from there?
It went really well, but I wasn't a guy who looked at going to college. Like my parents were really successful in kind of an unorthodox way where like they were just good at what they did.
Yeah.
And like, they never were like, oh, Ben, you should go to college. Like,
what do they do?
They were kind of in like the restaurant industry for a long time. And my dad was always really good at stuff. And my mom was like, she loved to work. Like my mom works, she's retired and still works probably 40 hours a week because she's retired because that's what she wants to do.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I was a kid who like hated school and like, they never were like, oh, you have to go to college. So I remember it was like junior, senior year. I was supposed to go on an official recruiting
Were they
trip.
asking like, Ben, what are you going to do with your life?
No, they never put the pressure on me. Yeah. They like always, I think they had confidence that like I was going to figure it out.
Okay.
Like I'd always kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
School was always one of those things that like I struggled with. So I was in summer school every year.
Oh.
I think they were worried about that maybe a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, they're like, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like he'll figure it out.
That's nice. I mean, they, loved and believed in you enough to give you the freedom.
Yeah.
And then, so that recruiting trip, you said?
Yeah. I was supposed to go on this recruiting trip and I was like, it was like that weekend or something. And this is like when you have like a landline, right? So like the college coach calls your house. I'm like tethered to the wall, and he was like, hey man, you said you were okay at school. I'm like, yeah, I am okay, I guess. Like I'm going. And he's like, you have like a 1.6 GPA. Like we can't get you in. I was like, okay. And he's like, you can't come on this recruiting trip.
Oh no.
But it was never anything that I thought about. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to be good at running in high school, and then I'm going to be good in college, and then I'm going to be a professional runner, and then I'm going to do these things. It just wasn't how I think. And it's still not how I think.
So then when he said you can't come, you were just like, okay.
Okay, cool. I'll do something else.
Okay. Then what happened?
I went to Mississippi State because they had like a really cool program where like, if you sucked at high school, you can come here, take this like special program. And then from there, like I had a really good time. Mississippi State set me up to go somewhere else. It was complicated. That's like a long story. Finally went to Minnesota. I had a college coach, Steve Pacentia, who ran out here for Athletics West. And he was really a guiding stone of like, if you want to be good, this is how you do it. And I hadn't had anybody, I think
like,
at that point.
Like a training log or like a life log?
A life log.
Okay.
Of like, hey, this is a timeline that you should look at. If you want to be good at this, you got to get good now. So then you can have opportunities later. I don't know if I was fully listening, but like kind of understood that path.
Yeah, just roughly. You're like, oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
This can take a little time. Okay. And then, so then Minnesota went well. You ran there 3 years or what?
Yeah. Went okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're all-American.
Yeah. I can't, it's like, I think like the thing that I'm really bad about is I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care about any of that stuff. My only goal now is like the future. It's like, okay, those opportunities, winning a Big Ten championship, going to, nationals, gave me these opportunities to do other things that I want to do.
Right.
And I've always looked at everything as a stepping stone.
Yeah.
This has allowed me to do this.
I see. And then, but that was a big change going from the track to the 100-mile ultra.
Yeah. But it wasn't in my mind.
No,
it just made sense.
Just another goal.
Yeah.
Just going to work towards it.
Yeah.
Why 100-mile? How come you didn't start with like a 50K?
Because it sounds boring.
Too short?
And it's too similar. Like I wanted to do something that like put me out there exposed for a really long time.
Yeah. That one, so you did, tell me what the race was called.
Rabid Raccoon.
Yeah. And where was it?
Outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in Beaver County. Very crittery.
Yeah, a lot of animals.
A lot of animals.
Yeah. A lot of hunters back there.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of hunters. So yeah, that one, it was how many? So it was 12.5-mile loops. Is that what I was following along on because I was like, oh man, I want Ben to kick ass on this. But so tell me about the race.
Yeah. So Wolf Creek Management puts on the race and they had reached out and it was a perfect introduction 100-miler, 12-mile loops. And then I could always come back to the main aid station, which made sense for me because I'm not organized. And it was like, I don't know what I'll need on a point-to-point, right? If I had to do drop bags, I don't know what I'd do. I don't even know where I'd start. So there were 12-mile loops, and that helped. But it really, like, I felt like going into the weekend and even during the race, I had the easiest job. All I had to do was run. Like, they were like, go run. I had this incredible team. I had my partner, Jesse Gabriel. I had Emily Hallinan. And then I had my best friend, Michelle. And then my parents showed up. And it was like, I had the easy part. And like, all I did was come in, tell them my problems. They fixed me. And then I went and ran again.
And so tell me, how did it go? I mean, was it every clip I saw of you, you were like, doing this and laughing or, it seemed like you had a great time the whole time. When did it hurt? It had to hurt at some point, right?
Yeah, I had some bad laps. My biggest thing, like, I think going into it, right, I had enough success on the track that I didn't want to go into the 100-miler and be a joke. Yeah. Like, that was what I was really concerned about, was like, I think I can run. Yeah. I think I can. But I didn't want it to turn into like, hey, I went out there, I made it 40 miles, and then I dropped out. Right. Like, I didn't want to do that. I took it serious. I trained pretty well. You trained
hard. I thought you trained hard. I mean, you were hammering this hill.
I ran it a lot. I felt like that was like, hills are easy on you. It's low impact, and volume-wise, it takes a little time. And I really needed lower leg strength. The thing that I didn't have going into the 100 was actual strength to get my body to move really well for potentially 24 hours. Yeah. I'd never done anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did you learn during that time?
That I have a lot to learn.
Yeah. How was did nutrition and all that? Were you feeling pretty good? Was your stomach okay?
No, I had made so I went in, I was like, okay, I have noon on this side, I have water on this side, I have some gels, like, I'm set. Yeah. Every lap I'm gonna eat 5 gels and I'm gonna drink this noon. And I came in, I think on the second lap, and Emily's like, you got to take more gel. And I was like, don't worry, I'm drinking noon. She's like, noon doesn't have any calories. Right. I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't have any calories? She's like, it has like 3 calories. Yeah. And that was totally new to me. Like, I didn't do any research. I just went out there and I was like, I think I can do this.
Yeah. Mud water is something I've been using daily since I started the podcast. It's supposed to be an alternative to coffee, but I actually add it to mine for some extra health benefits. It's got 4 functional mushrooms and with only a little caffeine, and each ingredient was added for a purpose. Cacao and chai for a hint of caffeine and hot chocolate-like flavor. Lion's mane for focus. Cordyceps to promote natural energy. It's also Whole30 approved, 100% USDA certified organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher. Mudwater donates monthly to support psychedelic research and has since day one. They believe the country is in a mental health epidemic and that psychedelic-assisted therapy is one of the most effective tools we have to treat mental health conditions. Today, you get $20 off when you subscribe at mudwater.com/cam. You also get a free frother and a sample of their delicious coconut creamer. So go to mudwater.com/cam to get $20 off your subscription and your free frother. That's mudwater.com/cam.
Right now is the perfect time to try Black Rifle Coffee. Use code KEEPHAMMERING at blackriflecoffee.com for 20% off your entire order. You'll see why they're becoming one of the most popular coffee companies in America. Black Rifle Coffee is veteran founded and veteran owned. They take pride in serving coffee and culture to people who love the country. When you shop with Black Rifle Coffee, your money goes a long ways towards giving back to those who serve our nation. Black Rifle Coffee just announced a huge partnership with the UFC that started with a giant donation to the Hunter 7 Foundation. Every purchase you make helps fuel their mission to support veteran and first responder causes. Black Rifle Coffee sources exotic coffee from award-winning farms worldwide and have a huge variety of ground coffee, coffee beans, and my favorite instant coffee for the mountains. Go to blackriflecoffee.com, use code KEEPHAMMERING for 20% off today.
that was kind of my big mistake. Like at that point, I had put myself in a hole. I didn't take enough nutrition. I thought I was, but I wasn't. So there was basically 2 big aid stations, and from one aid station to the next, it was like basically 4 miles. And when I left the aid station, I couldn't see. Like my vision went really bad. Like the sun had come up. And training here in Eugene, like the sun isn't that big a factor, especially when you're out in the Douglas firs, right? They have the big canopies. You're mostly in the shade. It's only when you're on top of the Spencers are you actually in the sun. Then you duck back into the shade. But for, 12 miles, for almost all day, I was out in the sun. When the sun came up, my eyes went to shit.
Were you wearing glasses?
I was, Evil Eye. I have a sponsorship, and they're amazing sunglasses. But it was lack of nutrition, and I was exhausted, and my eyes just went to like this tunnel vision. And I came in, and I was like, I can't see much. And they're like, how bad's your vision? I was like, it's blurry. I can keep running. I'll be fine. And they're like, what have you ate? And that's where we got to the nutrition thing. And Emily's like, you're an idiot. And
because your body it'll like save the calories to keep it alive. It doesn't really need eyes to, it needs, your organs need to be whatever, like, I don't know, fueled. And so, that's kind of, isn't that crazy? That's kind of one of the things you learn when you're so depleted. So I guess for you, it's vision.
I didn't need it. So then I was like trying to figure out what I could eat. Nothing was sitting well. And then it was like, Emily handed me a cup of broth. And I was like, okay, I can drink broth. Broth is easy. So I started chugging cups of broth. And the next lap went really well. It was like, okay, we're back. Like we problem solved that one. The next big problem came up was like my feet blew up. We had to cross these creeks, and it was super muddy. So your feet were basically wet the entire day. And at some point I started getting really bad blood blisters on all my toes. It was mostly, I think, the mud that got into your sock, and it just was chafage. There's just a lot of moisture going on. And my feet blew up, and I had
That's different than track. The track for sure.
Because you would never deal with it, right? Either it's going to be catastrophic and you're going to drop out, or you're just going to put that outside your brain. You're going to deal with it after the race, right? But you're never going to take off your shoe and like start ripping blisters to get your foot back in your shoe and be like, okay, I got to get to the aid station.
And feet swell after hours too.
They do.
So sometimes that's what causes those toes for everybody's their shoes used to fit. But then they got their feet swell, and then their toes are jammed in the front.
So I switched shoes. I went a size up halfway through, which saved me.
Good.
But again, like my team did everything. Like I just had to do the running, which is the easy part.
That's what, Courtney Dauwalter kind of has that same attitude. She loves the problem solving of a long race because it's going to be something. I mean,
it's too long not to.
And on the next race, maybe it'll be something else for you. But it's like, that's part of those long ultras is like, it's problem solving the whole time. But it's like normally once you fall behind on hydration or calories, because you're still burning the whole time, it is really hard to catch back up. And so that was good that you caught back up. Maybe you weren't in like a huge hole because if that broth helped, I don't know. But did it get tough for other reasons later?
It got tough. The sun, I hate the sun. I'm not a sun guy. That was tough. But Emily was able to jump in once we got to basically 65 miles. I think it was like 62. She ran the last 40 basically with me.
Did that help?
It did. And what really helped was we were kind of in like second and third the whole race. It was like this John guy and I kept going back and forth. He was a really good descender. I'd catch him on the flats. He'd catch me on the descent. And we kept coming into the aid stations right around the same time. And I hadn't seen firs for a long time. And then at some point, it was like, hey, we're moving good. And then like, it was like telephone on the trail. They're like, hey, you're 90 minutes back. And I was like, I can do that. I can do that. I can fucking rage for a while. And for 3 hours, Emily and I just went, it was like, okay, we're still in this fight. Let's do this. And for 3 hours, we ran as hard as we could. It was calculated. And that was one of the best times I had out on the trail. And it wasn't until we got to the last aid station with 4 miles And it was like, hey, he's 40 minutes ahead.
Oh.
And it was like, you're not going to catch him.
Can't
so
get
for 4 miles, we kind of did like a little victory lap of like, hey, you made it.
Yeah.
And that was a blast. But like really, once we got into that competitive mind of like, hey, we're going into the dark. And I was like, I can own the dark. I can do this.
Yeah.
It was a blast.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So who won it?
Heath, I'm blanking on his last name.
Yeah.
He had run some really fast 100 miles before. Really? And from everything I heard was like, he was super efficient. Yeah. He knew what to do. He came into the aid station and it was like a machine. And he ran an awesome race.
Is he in the 18s or 17s? What was
I think he was like 18, low 18s. He was like 40, 50 minutes ahead of me.
Okay.
At the finish.
Yeah.
So
you were under 19.
Yeah.
You're 18:59, right?
Yeah.
First 100 miler.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was so pumped. I was just like sending like commenting. I knew you weren't doing your phone, but I was like, man, it was just so fun to keep track of you. And because I knew how long did you train for this race?
Pretty much January 1st. I had done one run with a friend named Matt Barnhart, who's done a lot of ultra stuff. And him and I went out to Lowell to do this like 30-mile loop.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can do 30 miles. This is like the mediocre man in me who's like, if he can do it, I can do it. And it was my first long trail run. And we got 15 miles into this and we had to do these switchbacks, tight switchbacks descending.
Yeah.
And I got like halfway through the switchbacks and Matt was almost at the bottom. And I was like crying. I was like, I can't do this. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to tell Matt. Like, I don't want to like put us at risk. We're way out here in the woods. And I was like, hey, Matt, just give me a sec. Like, I got to tie my shoe. I'll catch you up. And I was like, I'm not feeling great. And he was so cool about it. He's like, it's just not a great day. I'm not feeling great either.
Okay.
And we got to this logging road and we could see on the map, it was like, we got 10 miles back of trail. And it was like, okay, the logging road goes out to a main road. Maybe we can hitchhike back. And I didn't want to say it in my head. I was like, and Matt was like, hey, maybe we take the logging road down. I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And he was super cool about it. And after that run, that was like mid-December, I took like 3 weeks off. And I was contemplating my entire existence. I was like, I don't think I can run. I don't think I'm made for the trails.
You're going to go get a job at Albertsons or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. But so you made it through that run and took 3 weeks off.
I didn't make it through. We had a hitchhike and a logger picked us up. We sat in the back of a truck, like in the bed, and he drove us back. And like Matt was super cool. The logger guy was super cool.
They didn't make you feel like a quitter?
No, it was like, and like, I don't know. It was a rough first, first introduction to trail.
And then after you took a 3 week hiatus, question your life.
Yeah. I got really into the gym. I was like, okay, I'm lacking strength. Like that was super key to me. Like, just
how'd you know that?
The descent. The descent was like everything was just on fire.
Okay.
Like my quads, my calves, everything just couldn't handle the pounding of going down. And I knew right away I just wasn't strong enough. Right?
See.
It's like it's very easy. Like if you put too much weight on a bench, you can't do it. It's the same way as descending. Like I don't have enough strength to get myself physically down this hill without walking.
I see.
And I was like, okay, well, I got to get stronger. So I did a bunch of gym stuff. I gained a little bit of weight. And then I was like, let's just run. Let's run. One, it was when Pisgah was still open. I was like, okay, let's do some Pisgah runs. Let's get stronger. And once Pisgah closed, I was like, I'm going to spend every day just running up and down Spencer's. That's all I'm going to do.
And that's all you did?
Yeah, I did 63 of them before the end of going into this race.
63 summits from the Martin Street down there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and you would do up Spencer's, over to Baldy, then back down?
Sometimes, or I just go back up and down.
Oh, I see.
I was really like calculated. I like, okay, I'm going to push this section. I'm going to power hike this section. I'm going to run hard this section. And then I'm going to work on descents.
Yeah.
So every day I went out with a new flavor of like, what am I going to try to conquer today?
Well, I know that the one time we ran, or no, I don't know how many times, but anyway, or no, I asked you what was your time. That's what it was, and you said if you can get 30 minutes from the bottom to the summit, that was good. And I was just like, okay. So then I tried to do that.
There you go. How'd it go?
I'm definitely you're a better runner than me. So
we all have our strengths.
Newsflash. Yeah, I was dying. I don't know what I got. I didn't get 30 minutes. I mean, I was in the 30s.
There you go.
Yeah, I thought, holy, because when I see you run, it looks so easy. You know how there's times when you run and you're like, you feel like Godzilla walking, just like,
yeah.
Well, you're the opposite of that. You seem light on your feet and just springy. And I'm very envious watching you run. So that's not me. I'm old and slow, but
that's me too.
Anyways,
old and slow.
It was a good goal to try to get 30 minutes going up there. But yeah, I mean, what a good experience. So you did 63 summits from January 1st to
March, basically.
To March.
Yeah.
And did your legs feel strong in the race?
Yeah. Body wise, it felt really well.
Really?
Yeah.
And so you feel like all that summiting and descending really enhanced the strength of your quads and that support system coming down.
Yeah. And really started callousing my feet, like you said, right? Like
toughen up your feet.
Going down and just having your feet just jam into the front of your shoes was something that I had to get used to.
Yeah.
It was a lot of like learning curve of like, what do I need to do so that we're not 40, 50 miles in and there being a,
Yeah, big issue.
Big issue.
Yeah. So how did you, I know before, like I went over to Run Hub, we got a friend over there, Ethan Hardacre, who works, and he trained with you quite a bit. But he said, we were talking about you running the race, and he said, Ben says he's going to go out and last of the 100. And I was just like, well, last place takes off walking because it's a long, for some people, the goal is just finish.
Yeah.
And that's great.
And that's the hardest way to do it.
Oh yes. I mean, you're going to be out there a while.
Yeah.
So but there's some people, and I don't know if they did, but they start that gun goes off, they start walking.
Yeah.
Because they know it's going to be a grind.
Yeah.
And so obviously you didn't start off last.
No, I was really concerned of like going out too fast.
Yeah. But you felt comfortable and
yeah. I felt pretty good, I think, the whole way. Like, I don't want to say like it was easy by any means. It wasn't. But I felt good for a while.
That's good.
Yeah. Like I think I go back to the idea that like I had the easiest job.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't have my team, I would not have had success.
Right.
It all came back to like my team fundamentally held me up.
That's nice. Good to have.
It's very bougie. It's very bougie.
Yeah. Let me think. My first, I did the Bigfoot 100 and I didn't have anybody. It was terrible. It took me 29 hours. I think I took my son back there and Tanner, he was like, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16 at the time. And I just left him at the hotel. And I said, I'm going to go run 100 miles. I'll see you at the end. And he walked down and walked 5 miles up. So he met me at mile 95. And then we ran the last 5 miles together. But yeah, a team makes a huge difference then I've had my brother Taylor, Spike, he's paced me, and it's night and day different. You have to have somebody there to help, even if it's just talk through things, and just say, hey, what do you think about this? Or a good crew, probably like what you had, would say, okay, here's what you do. Because you can't figure shit out usually on your own.
You're so stupid. You're making terrible life decisions
Exactly.
out there.
Yeah, so you need that. And I mean, I'm impressed. I mean, you work so hard, but when even the best in the world, like Courtney DeWalter, her first 100, she quit at mile 60 because she was like, this just hurts. Something's wrong. Yeah. I'm hurting too bad. Yeah. But then she realized, oh, that's just part of these.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
that's the gig.
It hurts. It hurts for like a long time in those races usually. And you gotta.
I think the big thing is like I'm 35. I've spent my entire life in the running world. I've had the luxury of not having to have a job outside of running.
Right.
Like I do a lot of things outside of running, but they're all running related.
Right.
So I think coming into 100 mile, I've had 10 years plus of 100 mile weeks.
Right.
Of like good running behind me. if I was 20 going into my first 100, I would make terrible mistakes and drop out within the first 8 miles.
Yeah.
But having come to it at this age with this much background, I feel like I had a lot of advantages.
You're wise too.
And dumb is better than wise.
Yeah, but you do have, you know, decades of running. It's not like you're out there trying to play tennis or play football.
Oh, no.
No, you're doing what you do.
Yeah.
Like you're a runner. So it's the transition makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, bigger playing field, I guess. But yeah, I mean, so you said, what's that race that you mentioned?
Grand Traverse.
And when is that?
It's like mid-August.
Where is it?
Goes from Aspen to Crested Butte. It'll be a really technical race.
Really? How far is it?
40 miles. So it'll be shorter.
Okay.
So,
yeah, probably got a bunch of climbing.
yeah. And I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So I think in between there, I'm going to go help a guy I actually met on the trail. Him and I ran a couple loops together. His name's John. He's from Quebec, Canada. And we got through the first lap, and I was like, I feel like we're going pretty slow. And he's like, it's never slow enough, man. And that was true. Like,
and that was at the race you just did?
Yeah, it was at the race we first did, or this last weekend.
Yeah.
And he's going to run Cocodona, the 250 from Phoenix up to Flagstaff.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of my origin. My origin is like, I started in Phoenix. I started my running career really in Phoenix, and I spent years up in Flag. And I feel like maybe at some point I'd like to do that race.
Yeah.
I think 250 sounds like a really fun adventure. So I'm going to go down there and help him. I think.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay. Help pace or crew or everything.
And crew, yeah.
Good. How did he do in the 100?
He was third.
Okay.
Yeah, he ran really well.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And what was his time? Do you remember?
I don't. The results just came up. They finally fixed the results.
Yeah.
So,
But to get third, that's a good run.
Yeah.
Definitely a good run.
And it's a stepping stone for him. I feel like he was like, oh, I'm doing this. I was like, that's a stepping stone. That's insane.
Oh, yeah. The 100 is just a warm up for the 250.
Warm up. Yeah, exactly.
I know. I want to do that race too, that Cocodona. I mean, Taylor, my brother's done it.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's gruesome.
Yeah. Looks tough.
And I've spent summers in Phoenix, and it's not a place that humans should exist.
I saw that, you know, Sally McRae, she came and did the podcast too, and we trained, but I'm trying to think. Did she win it?
She won that one.
Yeah. She's a stud.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool. It's just like how, you know, on the track, maybe some of these elite ultra runners probably wouldn't be great, but man, when it comes to just grinding for days, it's incredible how tough some of these people are.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's inspiring. But so you'll go pace that, and then so you do have eyes on doing a 200-mile race.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. What I want to do is, there's so many races I feel like out there that like want to make you miserable for no reason. I don't want to do races that are like miserable for no reason. I want to like push myself in a performance standpoint.
Yeah.
Like I want to get better at the 100 so I can run faster.
Yeah.
I want to be able to run the whole thing.
Right.
And it's like, how fast can we do it?
Race the whole thing instead of surviving for half of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to move from like, hey, we're surviving, we're having fun, to like, how do I come to an aid station and like look like Rachel Drake when she won Black Canyons?
Yeah.
Like you come in and it's like a Formula One pit spot. They're like, here's your gels, here's the stuff, go.
Yeah.
That's
that would
what
be
I
nice.
want to do. Versus like, I was like, oh, a cup of broth sounds good. Ooh, some Oreos.
I'm still waiting for that experience myself. I've done a lot of them, but I still haven't been able to just run hard the whole.
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably haven't just put in the miles. So what do you think it'll take? Just more experience, more miles, or what do you think is the key to being able to race 100?
I think it's kind of a combination of everything.
Yeah.
It's definitely more experience. It's I think I kind of want to have fun, and the pressure. I had talked to a couple people, and it was like, it was too much information. I was like, I don't need to know my how much sweat I'm sweating. Like I don't need to do that profile. I don't like, that's just too much information that's going to make it feel overwhelming. So for me, it was very much of like, let's get my body ready so they can tackle the distance. That's the first challenge. And now I think it's like, okay, nutrition seems to be a tough one for me. So it's breaking it down and not making it this overwhelming process. Because I do think, like, when I talk to anybody going into something new, I think they get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then it becomes this Everest of like all the stuff they need to acquire. And then they're like, they're so bogged down in junk that they've forgotten what they're actually trying to do. And for me, it was like, let's just run 100 miles. Let's make it as simple as possible. Even if we go out there and we just run, walk some of it, that's what I need to do my first time. I don't need to worry about having the best headlamp or the best vest. I just need to go out there and do it.
Yeah, that's, you know, there's a parallel with bow hunting. People, there's so much to know or to learn or to think about when it comes to killing an animal with the arrow.
Yeah.
But the basics is just get a bow and shoot.
Yeah.
All that other shit, you're going to have to get to it. You don't need to worry about it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get your bow, fire some arrows every day, get that repetition in. So that's kind of where you're at.
Yeah.
It's just like, let's just get started here. Build that base.
Yeah. I'm standing in the driveway shooting arrows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not in the mountains killing big bulls
No.
yet. But I was thinking on your training, did you have I know you said you just ran up and down the mountain, but what roughly was your miles? And did you have a goal for climbing per week?
Yeah.
For gain, what was your program? Because I know track guys, every track guy or girl they're usually like pretty regimented.
They're dialed in. And I think for the longest time in track, I was really dialed in. Like, I'm going to do this, to do this, to do this. And I think here it was like, I generally want to run 120 miles off 6 days. Kind of what I want to do. I want to put in a good 4-week block of work. And really what I wanted to do out of it was I want back-to-back big days. So
20 miles a day roughly was your goal.
Yep.
And then your back-to-back big days
were like 30 and 30 or 25 or something. I wanted those back-to-back days to give me confidence that like I could wake up a little sore and still go out and run.
And that's what you did that for how long?
Like, I don't know, 4 weeks basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you were able to and then you take a day off.
Yeah.
And recover. Okay. Yeah. So 20 miles a day, 6 days a week.
It's easy.
What about, I don't know about easy. So what about the climb?
Really it was just like, every loop is going to be an official summit. So I was going to go back to Martin Street, eat. That was like my biggest thing. Like, let's go back to Martin Street. Let's eat some food, see how we feel going back up. And I just kept doing that progression.
And what's the climb from Martin to the summit?
It's like 1,400 feet.
Okay.
So a lot of days. I don't think I had any days other than the Everest challenge over 10K. I always kind of went out thinking like, if I can get around 10K, and I think it always ended up being like 8,500. Because like the way to get 20 miles in is like a few summits and then like a Baldy loop. Yeah. And that Baldy loop kills you if you want to do 10K. Yeah. Because you have to commit to going all the way back up. And then you would be at like 24 miles. And it was like, I don't want to be at 24.
That's a lot of, dude, 10K a day climbing. Yeah. That's the difference is most people, their bodies wouldn't allow them to do that. Yeah. You know, I mean, even if they wanted to, that's a lot to ask of your body. Yeah. So you having that decades of running base built up had to help. And are you 160 now, you said?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. So you're, fairly light still. Yeah. I mean, not for a track.
I'm 20 pounds heavier than I was.
Yeah, not for a track athlete, but that's like a perfect weight because you need that muscle to run mountains.
And you need the durability.
The durability, yeah.
On the track, you don't need much durability.
Right. It's all about as light as you can get because your engine has to push whatever weight is on the chassis. Yeah. And so the lighter that can be, the more efficient your engine is. Yeah. But in the mountains,
to some degree, right? You have to balance the power to weight ratio because if you go too far one way, you lose all your power, and then you're just feeble.
I know they've done that on the bikes. Like I remember Lance had been there in like 500 watts or whatever it was. Do they do that power to weight ratio for running too?
I'm not that smart.
No, you don't know if they.
I don't know.
I was just curious if they would say, well, here's how you run, here's your weight, here's this calculation. If you could take off a pound, you'd be whatever. But, you know, I know there's been a big thing in track with body shaming and things like that, but
it's a brutal sport, right? I think right now there's a big discussion about women's eating disorder, and that conversation's been around for a long time.
Right.
Those same issues exist on the men's side. Nobody's talking about it.
Oh, is that right? That's what I'm curious.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think even for me, I get stuck in this. And the one thing that I did really well this time was I came off the marathon pretty broken. I didn't feel good. Nothing was going very well. I had done the marathon build-up, I think, 3 times.
Oh, wait. So you didn't tell us about the marathon?
Yeah. I ran one crappy marathon, and I was like, this wasn't that much fun. I don't really like it. I'm moving on.
Actually, it wasn't crappy, though.
It was pretty crappy, though. I ran like 2:16, and it wasn't a bad debut.
But that's Olympic trial standard.
Yeah.
Or under.
But like my goals in my head was like, I need to kind of crush it so I can like go to the trials and be competitive. That's all I cared about.
So you were hoping to get what, a 2?
I wanted to be, I think if I could have run like 2:13-ish.
Okay.
And really I knew in my heart, I probably knew that I wasn't going to run that on my first one. I knew that. And every time I kept training to run faster, I kept getting hurt. And I had like 2 years of like this really crappy build of like, get into the heart of it, getting hurt. Getting into the heart of it, getting hurt. And then eventually it was like, I just got to get to the fucking start line.
Yeah.
Let's get to the fucking start line and get one of these done. And I did that. I did that in October, and it was like, I'm not going to be competitive at the trials.
Was that just this past October?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
That was recent.
Yeah.
Where was the marathon?
It was outside of New York.
Okay.
They put on this it was called the micro marathon, and there was a lot of us just trying to run the Olympic trial standard.
Right.
And I took a very conservative approach, and I was like, I want to get through half of it feeling pretty good and then see what we can do. And it went okay. It just wasn't very fun. It's not fun when you're not competitive, at least from where I stand.
Right, I understand.
It was like, okay, I can run the marathon. Okay, great. Let's go do something else.
For me, I'm just trying to finish it. So, but I get what you're saying. So that the marathon wasn't fun.
It wasn't that fun, no.
But were you going to tie that into like your diet? Because we were talking about that.
Yeah.
The eating stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came off the marathon like thin and kind of broken.
Yeah.
And I wasn't moving very well.
And you were 20 pounds lighter?
I was like 140-ish going into the marathon, probably a little lighter.
Really?
Yeah.
So just to what we were talking about before, were you thinking a lot about how much you weighed and like you would be more fat, you'd be faster if you were lighter?
I think at that point in my career, it was so ingrained that like, you're going to get to the championship season and you're going to start losing weight, right? It just kind of naturally comes off.
Because the workload
and intensity goes off. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you start kind of shaving off weight. And some of it is like you kind of learn to do that. But it's not the healthiest. And I
What do you mean learn? How? Just or expect it, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I think you learn it in the sense of like, you're now doing a bunch of doubles. There's just no way you're going to eat enough food and be able to do the sessions you need to do and still feel good. And I think you kind of learn to kind of be in this calorie deficient point. And really, when you're 2 weeks out from a major championship, you're just trying to hold it together.
Yeah.
You're just like every day, you're like, I got to hold this shit together. Like I'm one step away from ruining this opportunity. Let's just hold it together. And it's a constant fight, right? And I think the thing that I did terribly was that I never left the season and been like, I want to recharge, I want to gain weight, I want to stop running, I want to go into the gym. And really what I should have done was like, go do plyos, become a better athlete.
Right.
And I never did that. I was like, I'm just going to go run more. I'm going to go do some long runs. I'm going to go enjoy some runs. And that was dumb.
Did you have a coach?
Yeah.
And
I should say like I have a sounding board.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. So I wonder, I mean, that does seem, again,
and they all gave me great advice. I just never listened.
Okay, so were they saying like to take a break and to put on some weight?
Yeah,
and...
John was always saying that, and I was like, whatever, John, you'll fix me when I'm broken. And he's like, fuck you, man.
So you were just going, hey, work got me here. I just need to work harder.
Exactly.
And instead of like looking at it
as like plateaus, being like, hey, I've done tons of work. Let's take a little break. Let's chill out.
It's so hard though.
It's hard.
I mean, I totally get that mindset.
Yeah.
It's always like more. Oh, I did 100 miles last week. Let's do 110 this week.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get it, but it's all, okay. So that is self-destructive.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's a very toxic trait.
But it's also what got you to the dance.
It's a tough balance. It's a tough balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine, but I know, just knowing my personality, I would be probably making the same mistakes you would. Just because like, I mean, my thing, I even said, I joke around, like, I remember I said it on Rogan once, but I just said rest days are for pussies. And it's just like, you know, that's from just a normal dipshit, an Olympic athlete.
No, I'm the normal dumbass too.
But it's just like, you have to take, you know, and I've talked to Emma a lot about it because she's like a big sleeper, which I'm like, yeah, I mean, for you, of course, it has to be science related. Yeah. For me, I just got to work. I mean, I just got to keep working. So like, it's different. It sounds like your mindset was more like the normal dipshit, like me mindset. Whereas, man, I would even perform better, I'm sure, if I was smarter about it. Yeah. You know, but man, that's tough. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. I don't know.
No, I think the hardest part about being in it is being confident that like you've done enough. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us come into it and be like, we have to do these little things to get better. Like, where's my edge? Yeah. And my edge is that like, I'm going to do those small things that nobody else is doing. Yeah. And usually those small things just add to distractions.
Yeah. Here's what, you know, like I ran yesterday and we did some photos up on Spencer's last night, but I ran from here to the house. My legs were just freaking dead. Yeah. Dead every step. And I'd just run a little while, then I'd start to walk and I'd just be like, God. And so I was thinking about, you know, we got the Eugene Marathon. It's coming. Like, I think I got an ultra before that I'm going to do. But my problem is I never feel like I'm ready. Yeah. So I'm always getting in too many miles too close to the race. Yeah. And then go into the race
exhausted.
Fatigued. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, that is so hard to. So when you said you never felt like you did enough, that's how I feel all the time. Yeah. And then when it comes to time to perform when it matters, you know, popping the legs. Yeah. I mean, is that kind of, did you ever have races like that where you were like, God, did I push too hard? Or
I was hurt most of my career. So yeah.
Yeah. When did it become okay to like, I need to be a little heavier? Is that when you said, okay, I'm going to be done with this marathon thing? Yeah. Is that when?
I don't know if I've thought about it that way. I think like the biggest thing for me now is like trying to understand the mistakes I've made, like taking a really thoughtful approach, one that I don't think I gave myself that opportunity in my track career, is now like, hey, what do we really need to do to become a better athlete? And looking at it as a lens of an athlete versus like a runner. So now it's like working with Jimmy Radcliffe, who's strength and conditioning coach here at U of O, and becoming a better athlete. I want to be able to move side to side. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to sprint. I want to be able to be more explosive. Right. And I should have worried about all those things in my running career, but I just felt like right now, what do I need? I need more. I need to run more. Like I'm too overwhelmed by everything else. And the one thing that's going well for me is running. So let's keep running. Yeah. But I wish I would have taken a better approach. I just felt like I was always in the heart of it and I didn't want to change things.
Yeah. I mean, if you've had success, why change everything? But like when you think about it now, and how do you feel now? I mean, not after the 100-miler, but before that, were you feeling like as good as you've ever felt, or?
Yeah, I think to some degree. I took a huge risk. I think like it was a calculated huge risk that like this is what I need to do to have success at the 100 miles. And for somehow my body held up to it. It could have easily gone the other way.
Yeah.
I could have been like the lady. I could have been coming off one of the stairs at Spencer's Fallen, and that could have been, you know, my year.
Yeah.
You know, I was lucky that like nothing like that happened. And I made it through, but like it was a very calculated decision that like this is a huge risk reward, and we made it. I would not tell anybody else to do that. That would not be my approach. Like if somebody came to me and they're like, "How I want to run an ultra," I'd be like, "Don't do it this way. I promise. This is awful."
How come? Why do you say that?
Because I think every day it was like I'm 1 mile away from getting hurt.
Oh, you're just pushing so hard.
Every day I didn't have that long. I had essentially 8 weeks to fit ultra training into.
Yeah, that's a short window for sure. So you even, it's a different type of challenge for your body, but you still pushed right to the limit on this preparation
every day.
too. Yeah. I mean, that is,
because that's where the fun is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even wear a watch, but I do like seeing what I did for the day. It's like that little like, okay.
Yeah.
Check the box. I got my work done.
Stupid. It's so stupid. Like the Strava line that like we all think about is like, oh, I got to get to this stupid arbitrary mark of 100 miles, 80 miles, whatever that mark is per week. It's arbitrary. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
But we do it.
How do you think like your training was so different? How do you think you'd run on the track right now?
Terribly.
I mean, not today because you're a few days after 100.
I don't know. So Nick Willis was somebody that I had the opportunity to overlap with.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the most decorated middle distance runners of this time.
Yeah.
And he broke 4 at 40. And I stand in my shower often and I think, how did that motherfucker do that? How did he break 4 at 40? Because how I feel at 34 is not, I'm going to break 4. I ran a good mile last summer.
Yeah.
You know, less than a year ago, I ran a decent mile.
Yeah.
So now, sometimes in the back of my head, when I'm out on the trail and it's getting dark, I think, fuck, I'm going to break 4 at 40. I'm going to drive up to the Dempsey up in Seattle. I'm going to stand on the start line with 20-year-olds and say, I'm going to fucking break 4.
Yeah.
Maybe
I think you can do it.
I don't know.
I think you, are you 34 or 35?
34.
Oh.
I got 6 years.
Yeah.
And that's a long 6 years.
You said you ran a good mile. What was it?
I ran a road mile. Competitively, I ran really well. Like I pushed from the front with like 1,200 meters to go or 400 meters to go. And we ran like 402 or 403. It was a road mile.
Yeah.
I think at that time I was much more like I'm doing track stuff. Like I'm still in it. Can I run a bunch of 250, 100-mile races, you know, get myself into the heart of ultra running, and then at 40 be like, you know what? I need like 6 months of hard mile training to break 4. Maybe.
I think you can do it. I believe in you.
Well, that makes one of us.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, I was just curious, like, because your legs are stronger, your body's more durable.
But I'm slow.
Yeah, you think you're slower?
Yeah.
Just because of that weight or what?
No, I don't. I think it's just like stride pattern has to change, right?
Yeah,
like,
because it's like stride length is probably so important.
Also, like at 60 miles, I'm not lifting my knees anymore, right? Like, like I'm kind of doing this shuffly, crappy stride.
Yeah. Were you thinking about running form during that 100?
Sometimes, especially at the end, I was like, you got to lift your knees. I only fell once at like 90 miles. I fell.
Tripped.
Yeah. And we were like having a blast. Emily was like, we were just like in it. And I went to take my last, I was at like 39 gels for the day. And it was like my last gel. And they're hard to get down at that point.
Oh, I hate gels, dude.
You like get them halfway in your mouth and you want to throw them up. And I was
terrible.
Like, and I kind of do this like little shoot thing. It's like, okay, as fast as I can get it in.
Shotgun it.
Exactly. And I kicked this rock and I fell and I like smashed into these rocks. And Emily's like, great fall, get up and run. I was like, okay, great. We're still in this.
She's tough as hell, isn't she?
She's extremely tough. And like, I don't know. And maybe you've seen this. More women work so much harder than guys.
I think so.
There's no question about it.
They're way tougher, way bigger badasses.
Like if it was me by myself, I would have just like kind of laid there for a little while and felt bad for myself and been like, okay, I'll walk it off, I guess. And Emily was like, get up. You felt great. And I was like, yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah, she's a badass. She's done hard rock a number of times, right?
A number of times, yeah. And then she holds the PCT record across Oregon, fastest time, and like it's unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely tougher than me.
Yeah, and I met her out on the trail one day, super awkwardly. I was like, "Oh, you run, I run. That's cool." And she's been this incredible mentor for the last couple months, like just incredible mentor, and was like, "Hey, here's the things we really need to do to have success here." Why she felt pity on me, I don't know, but it's been amazing.
It seems like a recurring theme.
Why
do all these people care about Ben?
I don't know. It's a good question. and truly, that like if I was to say there's one reason I've had success, it's these few people: John Ball, Jess Gabriel, my partner, Emily. There's reoccurring themes of like people who have been in my life who have like got me to where I am. I've always had the easiest part of like, hey, I'm just going to go out there and have the fun part, and you guys are going to fix everything else.
So, why do you think you've been so lucky?
I don't know. It's a good question.
It must be your personality, just like I don't know.
I'm like a stray dog that like shows up at the restaurant and they're like, it's that same dog. We'll give it the leftovers.
I don't know, but whatever. Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I know she's impressive, and I saw she's doing like has a book coming out maybe.
Yeah.
So she's doing something
to the gorge
at the Eugene Marathon. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool. I mean, but yeah, it was so exciting to follow your journey into the ultra scene, and I've been a big Ben Blankenship fan forever. I like that. Your writing and your captions and some of the other stuff that I read that you've written. It's like, have you always been a good writer?
No, I'm a good. So my partner is a good writer, and she understands me. I think like if I wrote something down, like I will say like school was not my thing. I struggled with school. I still struggle. I have so I coach Big Timber Running Club, and we have one email, sometimes 2 emails a week, but really one email. And that's the hardest part of my week. I have to write this stupid email. And I struggle with it. Like putting words on a page is not my thing. And then
I don't know.
I can write it.
Yeah.
But Jess can like interpret it.
Okay.
So she can help me edit it. Like it's really helpful. Otherwise it would be like garbly goop on a page. So she really like kind of helps me like make sure it makes sense.
Oh,
I'm still struggling with there. You know, there's I don't quite understand which one to use.
What about 222?
I don't know those.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that you got if I think about it, it's like the best ultra runners I know are like these free spirit type people. Because if I think of Courtney, Sally, Kat Bradley, it's just like it feels like you have that same, whatever. I mean, that's what it takes. It's just that attitude, because it's not ultras aren't structured. They're not like the track.
Yeah.
It's just like, it seems like you were built for like this more free type experience that ultras offer. I mean, to me,
see. Yeah. We'll see. I think like my big thing is that like, I just love challenges.
Yeah.
I think we build things into too big.
Mm-hmm.
They become overwhelming. It's like, just go out there and fucking do it. Can't be that hard.
Yeah. You'd mentioned earlier when we were talking about like the weight and all that men have the eating disorder thing too, is like, but nobody talks about it. Like, what is that? Like, what do you mean?
I think we lose a lot of great athletes on the men's side to issues that we don't talk about. I think eating disorder is one of them. I think I've stood in many call rooms across my time that eating disorders is what keeps great athletes, much better athletes than myself, from competing.
Yeah. I mean, so what's the answer to that? Because, I don't want to say, I said, something like body shaming or whatever, if you got extra fat. I mean, I don't want to seem insensitive or whatever, but it's like the weight is a big part of being a runner.
But being healthy is the hardest part.
So that's like, I mean, I know there was an athlete, a woman athlete that was kind of at the center of that thing with, I think, Alberto and all that. But it's like, I understand her point for sure, but also on the other spectrum, I understand like a coach bringing it up also. So how do you talk about it?
I don't know. I am not smart enough to answer those questions. But I know a lot of issues exist inside this sport. And they exist on men and women's side. And I think I fall into it, right? Like I have those toxic traits of like, hey, I'm not going to cry. I'm a guy. Like I grew up in the 90s, right? It was like, walk it off. I'm like, okay, great. So I think we fall into those same habits, especially on the guy side, where they're not that big a deal. But really, I think they take a lot of great talent out of the sport. Yeah.
No, I mean, if you're too light, not getting enough nutrition, plus pushing hard, it's going to be, so you're saying injuries are what keep people off from performing their best because they're not getting what they need diet-wise, and they're still pushing so hard.
I think there's a lot of other things, right? Like Michael Phelps is a great example of that.
Like how so?
Like mental side. I think the mental side is really tough, right?
Yeah. So just kind of like being tough, not talking about it like, hey, I'll deal with this. Yeah. And so you think that people would benefit just by being more honest about how they feel and addressing issues. Yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I always relate it back to what I do. I know if you take personal issues or you're having, I don't know, if you're just struggling with things into the mountains by yourself, it's not getting any better. You're going to sit there and obsess about it. So I understand how your mind is such a powerful tool, but also can kill you. You know, I mean, so just dealing with it, but you know, it's so hard to say, how do you deal with, I guess, talking about it is the first step, right?
And I don't have those answers. You told me a quote when we were out running, because I said, what's the hardest part of bow hunting? And you said, it's being out there by yourself. And I think I've thought about that a ton, right? And I think ultra running is a little similar to that. And I also think, like, earlier in this conversation, you asked what was really tough about that 1500. You have to do it by yourself. You have to run 1,500 meters by yourself. And you're the only person that can make the good decisions. That's a lot of pressure.
That is.
Especially when you don't make good decisions.
That is. I mean, I think we focus so much on the physical. And man, where our head's at, it has to be just as important. I was thinking, you know, on that, your first ultra, having that aid station every 12 miles or the two big ones, that is a big difference. Like, as I mentioned, that Bighorn 100, I remember normally in an ultra, you're by yourself. I was by myself from midnight till 6 in the morning and just hurting from mile 50 to, I don't know where I got, mile 82 maybe by 6. And is that what it was? 50, so a 6 hour, maybe. Probably not. But anyway, by myself, pitch black, dark. And so you didn't have to deal with that, really. You weren't by yourself for too long.
No, and never was I really. There's a couple laps that like I spent some time by myself, but not a ton.
And then you start getting in the 200s, then that time is even, you know.
It's amplified.
It's amplified. And so that is a big part of it, is like your mind goes crazy out there. And, you know, Courtney, she talks about famously seeing, what is that? Not hallucinations. So she'll see like a leopard in a hammock type thing. But so that mental part, that will be another exciting challenge.
I'm excited for that.
Being solo. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't think about it that you were by yourself in the 1,500 meters even. Because it doesn't really matter what anybody else feels or does. It's just you dealing with it. And it was that, did you not enjoy that part of it?
Or I loved it.
Oh, you loved that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered if that's why you wanted to get away from it. So why'd you love it?
I think two ways. I tell a lot of young athletes this is when you go out on the track, you can be anybody you want. You don't have to be yourself.
Yeah.
I always viewed myself as an entertainer before an athlete.
Really?
Because if you're really boring out there, nobody will care. I don't care how good you are. If you're boring, it's not exciting. Make it exciting.
Yeah.
Do something. I don't know what you want to do. Just do anything. Make it exciting.
Who does that? Who does that for you that you see?
I think Simmons was, so when I first moved out here, Simmons was like the big dog on campus and he was an entertainer first. Yeah. And I always thought, okay, what can I bring to the table? Because Ben Blankenship is a really boring guy. He's really boring. So I always thought, okay, when I get in the call room, I'm going to be somebody else. I'm going to figure out who my alter ego is when I get out on the track. I'm going to be somebody else.
And who were you? Like, how'd you act?
I hope it was entertaining.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I act. Maybe it wasn't entertaining. I hope I was. But I always felt like I could disassociate like all my other problems, all my other things in life.
Yeah.
That didn't matter because I'm now somebody else.
That's interesting. Okay. So yeah, you wanted to be an entertainer. Like, are you not entertained?
I don't know about that. I don't know if that's me. But it's the same way. Like, I think like when I stood in the little start line on the ultra, it was like any problems I have in my life don't matter. Yeah. All I care about is getting to the finish line.
Huh. Did you feel pressure because you were like this decorated runner and then going to did you feel pressure from that?
I think I just didn't want to be, and I struggle with this. I don't want to make a joke out of anything. Yeah. I don't want to be like the guy who says he can do something and doesn't do it. Right. Right. That's like my biggest concern in my whole life.
I understand. Yeah. So you're committed to it.
I was committed.
Like, okay, I got to give a good effort. And you're happy with your performance?
Yeah. Overall, I think like things went pretty well. Yeah. I think we could have done I could have done things better, but yeah, we're learning from them.
Yeah. Yeah. So Nick Simmons, he ran the 800. Yeah. And I think a couple Olympics. I know he made a couple, two Olympics. Yeah. So who else? When I think of entertainers too, like in your distance, Centro was a pretty good entertainer, wasn't he?
He was. Well, yeah. He's the Achilles of mine. He was really good, and I think he had a very hard burden to carry because he was the guy that was supposed to make every team. Yeah. And I never had that pressure. Right. I never, nobody would have ever been like, that guy is going to make the team. It was just like, I could go out there and be first or last. And they were both, everybody would have been pretty like, oh man, that was great. Like you were there. But to be Centro and have to go out there time in and time again and prove that hey, I deserve to win. Right. That's a lot to carry. Oh man. And I always felt like he came up and he was a tactician. I think the thing he doesn't get credit for enough is he was a fucking tactician. Yeah. He knew how to win. Right. Yeah. I don't know if he studied a ton. I don't know if having a parent who was a super talented athlete as well, and he had spent his life in the sport, he just inherently learned a lot. Yeah. But he was a tactician. Yeah. No, I mean, it was fun to watch him race for sure. Did you, have you beat him? Only on never when it mattered.
Really? Well, I mean, but you did in some races or training or what? Did you ever train together?
We only trained once, and I will never train with him again. He was just so good. The things he could do in training, I could only hope to do.
Yeah. Where'd you train with him?
We did a workout. We did 400s down in Sedona. Yeah. And I'm just not very fast. That just wasn't who I am.
So you're doing sprints?
Yeah, kind of sprints. I think for him it was like a jog.
Oh, 400. Oh, I thought you meant 100 meters.
No, we were doing 2400s.
2400. Yeah. So 20 laps around the track.
Yeah.
And then you'd run a lap, then take a break?
Yeah, they were like, I think we did, I don't know how we broke them into sats. So there was some big recovery. And then it was like I don't know how we did it. Maybe it was 16 400s or something, 8 or 4x400s. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I remember we got to kind of the last sats and it was like, we're not playing the same game. We're not on the same level at all.
Really?
Like I thought we were
hurting?
And it was like, he'd be like, hey, I'm going to get out fast. I was like, go fuck yourself. I'm getting out fast. I've been getting out fast, man. And he was just on a different level.
Yeah.
And I don't think that scared me. I don't think I looked at it like he's unbeatable. It was like, he's got to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like I got to do something so that he can't be the same guy.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, so you had to get, instead of him calling the shots, to have a chance, you were going to have to dictate something.
Do something.
Yeah. So going into that, like the day before, anytime I do something, I'm always like obsessing about it the day before. Like I can turn that was just a workout, but I can turn like the littlest thing into like a big thing in my head. And like, I got to show up. Okay, I'm training with this person. I got to have a good day, right? And so when the night before your training, were you excited or what were you?
We've been around each other enough and like shouldn't have been that big a deal. It was just astonishing. Yeah. Because like seeing real talent out there, you see good talent every once in a while, and just being able to have those opportunities to train with somebody was huge. Yeah. I learned a lot. A lot that like I'm not very good. So yeah. Oh
yeah. When was that?
I got hurt like a couple days later. I think it was 2018-ish, somewhere in there. I don't know. I'm very like in my head, it's all like a big blur.
Yeah, yeah. But so at that time, you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
So that was 6 years. So he's still trying on the track now. How do you think that's going to go?
It's hard to rule him out. It's always hard to rule him out.
Yeah, he's such a proven winner.
Yeah. And like in my head, he's still the same old Centro, right? And I think there's always going to be a young newcomer, right? I think Cole showed that. Yard Negusha showed that. It's just hard to take a guy who knows so much. And I think the tough part is, can Centro change who Centro is? Like, I think the hard part for me to envision him having success is like, what has always worked has always worked. Right. And now what has always worked is not going to work again. You're not the same guy. Can you change your formula to make this team? I think that's his biggest challenge. Yeah.
I mean, it's Jordan kind of adjusted his game later in his career, where he was like the big dunker, didn't really have a 3-point shot, then all of a sudden was a 3-point shooter and could have a fadeaway mid-range. So maybe it's going to be something like that. The greatest usually figure out ways to adapt.
Yeah. That's why I just keep leaving. It's like, I did that pretty well.
Well, I don't know if the track offers that same amount of latitude, though. The track is so cutthroat.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll see. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Excited to see how it plays out.
I'm a Centro fan too, so I don't know
if I'm a fan. I just admire him from afar.
Okay, no, I'm a fan. Just respect.
No, I'm a fan.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. I love watching the races and the race within a race, but I don't even know anything about it compared to like what you do. So, like, when did that race happen where? Man, you told me about it, where you took off with like 600 meters and he came with you. Was that before or after?
That was 2017.
Okay. So what happened there?
Yeah, I was still super proud of that race. So it was a world year. We came off 2016 and I was like, okay, this is my chance. This is my one chance to beat Centro at home.
Because you thought he had just won the gold.
Yeah.
So maybe
how cool is that? Like, to beat the reigning Olympic champ at his nationals? Let's do it. And I was fired up. It was, I don't know why. It was an awful day. It was in Sacramento. It was like 108. And USATF was like, you know what time would be great to run a 15? 1 p.m.
Oh, God.
And for some reason, I had it in my head that like, he'll want to make the team. Like his bigger goal is to come back and repeat as a world champ than it is for him to win USAs.
Yeah.
And that was probably a little bit of a mistake, but I thought, okay, I'm going to gamble.
So you thought he was going to be off his game a little bit.
Not off his game, but it wouldn't matter to him as much. Like he had won so many US champs at that point. He had just come off winning the gold and there's a lot of pressure. And like, I kept thinking like in my head, like he'll think about the bigger picture. He won't worry about USAs. He'll worry about going to worlds and running really well. And I was like, I gotta, like, this is my one chance. Like, I felt like I'm in good shape. Let's do something really dumb. And I ran the best race that I think I could have run to beat Centro. But for some reason, I overthought it a little bit. And Centro did exactly the opposite that I thought he was going to do.
Tell me what you did than what he did.
So we had 2 laps to go, and I was like, I'm just going to go really hard. I'm just going to run as hard as I can for 300 meters, and I'm going to gap everybody and just hope to maintain. And I swear, it isn't like Ben's fit enough to do this. This was like, I'm going to hope that everybody else decides they're running for second. That was my hope.
Yeah.
That was like,
break
okay.
everybody.
Not even break everybody. Just decide that like, hey, he's too far ahead. Like we want to make the team. And the only person I needed to take the bait was Centro.
Yeah.
If he takes the bait, nobody else will go around.
Right.
If he decides not to go with me, then I've won it.
Yeah.
And he decides to go with me. And not even just go with me. He like fought for it. And I don't know why he did that. He fought for me to win, and I should have known he was going to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's a competitor. He wants to win. And, like, for some reason, I fundamentally misread it.
Yeah.
And
you thought he'd be happy just making the team, like top 3.
Yeah.
Let this guy go.
Yeah,
whatever. Doesn't
like
matter.
he'll probably come back. Like,
Yeah.
like I'll take the risk, and he didn't take the risk.
He stayed
but
with
it did cost him the champs. Like he could have easily probably been a little bit more calculated and still won.
Yeah.
But he decided to go with me, and he ended up second.
So you guys gassed out.
Oh,
you're going too hard.
Oh, I did. I like walked the last 100 meters. The last 100 meters was the most embarrassing. I was super proud of it. But you're also running so fucking slow that like you can see your parents in the stands just being like, God, why did he do that? I was like, yeah.
Oh man. So he who won that championship?
Robbie Andrews.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Centro got second.
Centro got second.
And you blew up.
Oh yeah. I just walked it in. It wasn't like I wanted to walk in. That was just all I had left.
What did anybody say anything to you afterwards?
Oh, everybody did. They're like, why did you do that? I was like, and I think people misunderstood why I did that.
Yeah, how so?
I did it because I wanted to beat Centro.
Yeah.
I felt like this is my one chance. I know he's better than me.
Yeah.
But he's proved that every year. He's
Right.
been a better athlete since we left high school together.
Yeah.
He's been a better athlete since he won gold at the Olympics. Like there's no question who the better athlete is.
Yeah.
But I felt like this is my one shot.
Right.
I'm not going to get another shot.
Hey, I got respect for that. I mean,
Nobody else did.
Go big or go home.
Yeah.
I mean, you put all your cards on the table.
Yeah.
Isn't there something beautiful about that?
Yeah. Too bad they were terrible cards.
Yeah. But that's, I don't know. It's awesome. I think it's a great story.
I appreciate it.
I love it. But it's, I don't know. I totally understand. I mean, you're like this elite runner, but I can identify with.
I'm the average guy who just keeps showing up.
Well, that's what I identify with.
Yeah.
People, I read what people say, like they might say something about me running, and I'm just like, I suck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, compared to an average person, maybe okay.
Yeah.
But it's like, I totally get that, like, I don't know. It's like to me, you're elite, but I get where you're coming from comparing yourself to I don't know.
It's all relative, right?
I understand it. I guess I understand your mindset.
Yeah.
It's just like, maybe you feel like, I don't deserve to be here, but I'm going to make the most of it.
Yeah.
Type thing. That's kind of how I feel anyway. But I don't know. You say you're average, but I'm still not buying it, but I love the stories.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be fun. We got the Olympic trials coming here this year. I will, I'm excited to see that. I'd love Centro, the old guy there, to still get it done. But
we'll see.
It's tough. A lot of competition.
Yeah.
That story also reminded me of, Emma, she had won, I think, like 9 straight U.S. championships in the steeple.
Yeah.
And then got beat last year. And it's like, I just don't think that, because you said Centro, he's won so many, maybe this wouldn't matter.
It matters.
For them.
It matters.
I mean, I know I think she got second in the steeple, and I'm sure it mattered.
Yeah.
To be I don't know if it was, I think she was 9, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's some unbelievable amount.
I mean, to be at the top of our country, which is a lot of runners in our country, for 9 years. I mean, I believe she's going for her 10th, and I really wanted that one. And so, I don't think they can ever say, well, I've got 9, I'm good. I'll just let this guy win.
Yeah.
Or that, I can't remember who beat her. Do you remember who beat?
Krissy Gear.
Oh,
Krissy Gear came out and ran super well.
She did.
Yeah. And it was super calculated. She made really good decisions.
Yeah. Because Emma was leading, I believe, coming through. I was on the back stretch there. I thought.
With like 300, 400 to go.
Yeah. I don't know, Chris. Is it Krissy?
Krissy Gear, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know her, but I know Emma. So I definitely wanted Emma. But we'll see.
Yeah.
She's, I don't think she's run a race yet this year, but I think she should be coming back pretty soon. I think she had a hamstring injury. So I'm excited to see how she does.
Yeah.
And I saw Corey just got married.
It's track and field's super fun. You only get so many opportunities.
Yeah.
So, I think one thing I always look at is like, what do you want to do in track and field? Mm-hmm. Do you want to be somebody who consistently shows up and makes U.S. finals and is like right in the mix, but maybe doesn't make it? Or do you want to come out and like do something exciting?
Yeah. Yeah.
I always wanted to be like the exciting guy. Like I just wanted to come out and be like, I don't care about 4th through last, doesn't really matter. Like, who cares if you're 6? It doesn't matter.
When were you the most exciting guy? Tell me like a race.
I don't think I was ever that excited.
Tell me about a race you were happy with that you did exactly what you're talking about. Was it that one just Challenge Centro, or did you have one where your plan worked perfect?
No plan has ever worked perfect. I think one race I was super proud of was the Bowerman Mile one year. I had no real business up front. And with like 500 to go, I was like, I'm just going.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what happens. And I always wanted to try to win. I always wanted to do something big. And like, maybe it pays off, maybe it doesn't. But like running for 4th or 3rd, like at that, it doesn't matter. Like to me, it just never mattered. Like,
right.
If you're not trying to win, then what's the fun?
Yeah.
And with like 200, 250 to go, I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to win this. I got this. And then with 100 to go, and like the 100 meters is a long way.
Yeah.
Like I challenge
you can see it right there.
Oh, you can see it. And it seems short, but it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
And like with 100 to go, I went from like 2nd to 3rd to 4th to like, I think I ended up 8th or something. But it was super fun. Like I had a blast. And I remember like it was Old Hayward, and like the crowd erupted. And it was like, this is it. This is why I'm doing it.
Right. What did you break 4 in that one?
Yeah, I mean, we ran fast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, breaking 4 for you guys isn't that big a deal, probably.
Yeah.
So what you mentioned too that so much focus on the Olympics. Do you ever see that changing? So you're thinking it's like shouldn't mean, or it's not everything.
No.
So do you see that changing, or is that just the way it is?
I don't know. I think the tough part, and maybe I'm like kind of bitter. I don't know. I thought it was going to be different. Like I came out and like maybe it was just a weird place. Like maybe Rio just wasn't into track and field, but like I came out of like, you come out of the state, or you're under the stadium and you come out of this tunnel onto the track. And it's supposed to be like, you know, the moment of your life. And you come out and there's like 20 people and you're like, okay, cool. And it was like 9 a.m. and I was like, all right, cool. And I thought for some reason, stupidly, right, that like I had a lot of opportunities. I'm not going to take those away. Like becoming an Olympian gave me tons of opportunities to do tons of stuff now. Like I've done so much in the sport, but I kind of thought it would elevate me. Yeah. Like I went from running a lot of races to like make sure I could kind of cover all my bills. It was like, I'm going to race all fall so I can have a little bit of money to like go do something fun. Like I had a contract. I was super lucky, but it wasn't that lucrative. And it was like, you're one injury away from like getting a job at Albertsons to keep running. Like I was never in a position where like, I felt like I could relax. Like, hey, I'm covered for a little bit. I can relax now. It was always like, hey, if you're not making teams, well, it might be a tough go for you and you might have to look for something else. Yeah. And I was always willing to risk it. But I thought getting to the pinnacle of what we say the sport is, I was like, okay, if I make this final, maybe I'll have some money. Yeah. And that just never happened. Yeah. And maybe it was my stupidity going into it, thinking like, oh, the Olympics must pay us. They must pay us some money. Look at this. Like they've been talking about it all year. Yeah. This is everybody's, you know, dream. And then they're like, here's a button. Here's a participation button. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. It's
like all comers meet.
Yeah. And I like looked under it. I was like, maybe the check's under it. Nope. Just this button. Awesome.
I'll wear my button.
I'll wear my button. I'll wear it to Albertsons.
I do. Yeah, I get that. So if has there been a race that is the pinnacle, like where something happened and it's like it truly means more than the Olympics to a runner? Is there races like that?
Honestly, I cut my teeth and I was a guy who raced a lot. Yeah. Mostly because I was motivated by money. I wanted to make a living and I wanted to like not be stressed about like paying my mortgage or paying my rent and be able to do some cool stuff outside of the sport. So when we got done on the track in the summer, I just go do all these road miles. And the road miles you're at that point where you're tired. You're still trying to string together races. And those meant a ton to me.
Winning the Butte to Butte.
Winning the Butte to Butte, the best townie race in the country.
Because you did win, right?
I did win, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But like that stuff where like you make $1,500. Yeah. And it's like, man, this is real money for me. Right. Like winning, if I could run 4 road miles in a month and win a couple $1,000 and come out with like 10 grand, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
It's awesome.
So the Olympics doesn't pay athletes anything?
No.
Whoa.
No.
Yeah, so I guess you better be turning that into sponsorship money.
Yeah, and I don't do that much. Like you met me, I'm an average guy.
Here's what's crazy about it is like, okay, so on the come up, why would they? You haven't done anything yet. Yeah. So then you win. If you win the Olympics, it's just like now after that. Normally you don't win multiple Olympics. No. So if you didn't make it on the way up, then you won, but it's going to be tough so when are you making that money?
When are you making that money? Yeah. And I think, right, like I was in a very privileged position most of my career where like Nike did invest in me. Yeah. They invested me for 10 years and I was really lucky to have that investment. But it's not a huge investment for him, right? It's not like I'm living this like big lavish lifestyle. And I remember
I asked Centro what he got from him, and it was like decent money, but not like.
And he's the best athlete we've produced in generations.
Yeah, and it nowhere near like NBA, NFL, any of those, and like you look at the work you have to put in and the sacrifice you have to make for years. And so, but he did make decent money, but I could see.
Imagine being like the third or fourth guy.
Right. So it's like,
and I'm not, I do not want to come off as like a guy who's like,
no,
man, I want to get paid more. I don't deserve anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm just a dude.
No, you're just saying.
But I did get to the Olympics and I was like, hey, babe, we're going to be in the money. And she's like, oh, I don't think so. I was like, no, don't you worry.
When's this? Where's this money you're talking about? Yeah. And she stuck around though.
Oh yeah. She's been.
No. Yeah. Oh man. I don't know. That is a hard one. How do you earn a living?
Yeah. Because sometimes it's about that.
That's another part of it. It's like, if you're training all the time and this is your goal, it's like that money has to come somewhere.
Yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah.
But it's weird how do other countries pay their athletes?
I don't know. I'm not that smart. Like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, hey, this is a better formula. We could do these things better.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it.
Right.
My perspective sometimes is that like when I talk to young athletes and I talk to athletes who are working solely for the purpose to call themselves an Olympian.
Yeah.
And I think they fall into that trap of like, hey, I'm going to make it. This is my moment.
Right.
Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And it means a lot. Like, if you ask anybody and they're like, oh, you run? Have you been in the Olympics? It's like, okay, yeah. Like, I can say, yeah. Do I care? I don't care. Like, it was the goal I had then.
Yeah.
It's not the goal I have now.
Yeah. I understand that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I can't relate it. Can't relate it to anything, but I have talked about, like, I had this book and it did make New York Times.
There you go.
And it wasn't, but that was never the goal. So it's like it was just to tell a story.
Yeah.
And then if it made it, whatever. If it didn't, it's fine too. I mean, or it's kind of cool to do it, but it doesn't. What does it mean?
Yeah.
You're still the same person. I still got to do the same shit every day.
Exactly.
So it didn't like.
And I don't think I'd do anything different. Like if I made a ton of money, I'd still be running the Butte and I'd still be going out to do some ultras.
Yeah. So, yeah, what is the reward of life then?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a big question.
It's just to enjoy what you're doing, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And, to have people that believe in you like you have.
Yeah.
Maybe to pass on some of the knowledge like you're doing, because I know you coach now.
Yeah.
You know, you got a lot of athletes getting ready for the Eugene Marathon.
Yeah.
So maybe is that the reward?
Yeah.
Is that what we're supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like a good story so far. Yeah. But tell me about too, because don't you have an organization that you work with, or that you're, what do you do?
Yeah. I started a nonprofit. It's called the Endless Mileage Project. And it's at the crossroads of sustainability and athletics. We have two pillars. One is the Fast Forest. So right here in Springfield and Doris Ranch, we planted 850 trees that represent all the athletes who have broken 4 and 4:30 in the mile in the U.S., which is super cool. And then we have Recovered Running, which collects new and gently used items for under-resourced kids. My biggest fear is some kid that's from Young-Collar, Oregon, goes out for track and field, shows up on day one and goes, I don't have running shoes. And they're like, come back when you have running shoes.
Yeah.
Or they want to, but they don't feel like they belong because they don't have the gear. And we live in such a privileged society. We live here in the Emerald Valley where track and field and distance running really started. And there's a lot of waste. And it was like, why don't we just give back to the next generation of athletes? And that means a ton to me.
Yeah.
Like I was never in that position. My parents were awesome. They bought me running shoes. But without running, I wouldn't be here today, right?
Yeah. And it's not even so much that maybe it's the next phenom that wasn't going to run, but now they are.
Yeah.
But it's just all the other kids that running can be this thing, this thing that they can own and feel good about.
Yeah.
And they get a little positive reinforcement. Yeah. And maybe they'll never make the Olympics. Maybe they'll never make anything. But at that moment in their life, it was a positive.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems, man, that's a great cause. Yeah. I didn't know the full story behind that, but that's awesome.
Yeah. And mostly I had a truck early when I was living here, and I helped a ton of people move, and a ton of people had a lot of old running gear. They're like, hey, can you drop it off at St. Vincent's or Goodwill for me? And I was like, why don't I just call a high school? Like, there's some really cool gear in here. Maybe a high school kid will like it. So I started doing it really grassroots. And then at some point it kind of formalized. And now we've been 501c3 for 2 years now.
That's sweet.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, all right. I'm going to end this with, when you were growing up, did you have like a running idol that you loved to follow?
I'm right at that like weird time period where like I didn't have the internet. My parents weren't inside the sport. So if it wasn't the Olympics or it wasn't like some front page, you know,
you didn't know about it.
You didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Right.
So no Prefontaine stories.
No Prefontaine, right? Like I just grew up and then eventually I started running.
Yeah.
You know?
That's well, that works too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think I knew of Pre just because of living here.
Yeah.
You know, and then growing up, there was like, remember that Myler Guerrero? Was it Hitchman Guerrero?
Yeah.
Do you remember that guy?
Hickam El Garouge.
Is that who it was? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he king of the mile?
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah. Anyway, I remember that. I was grown by that time, but I just have always loved these like larger than life track or like these legends.
Yeah.
You know, who is Sydney McLaughlin?
Yeah.
Like she's incredible.
Yeah.
And the track is like so epic. But yeah, there's people, these superstars that hard not to be inspired by. Yeah.
No, I feel like I came here with a ton of questions and I didn't ask any, so I feel bad now.
Questions? Why? You're not supposed to have questions.
I had a ton of questions because you grew up here. You grew up in the Emerald Valley. I mean, I think you've seen the sport ebb and flow, right? And I think Eugene has always been kind of the heartbeat of track and field, especially with distance runners, right? Like I mentioned earlier, Steve Pacentia kind of gave me this roadmap.
Yeah.
And the direction was go west. Go to Eugene, put yourself in it, and just keep showing up. And that's what I did, right?
Yeah.
And you could live a lot of places in America, but I live here because I can go to the track and there's going to be somebody there. I can go to Spencer's and there's going to be somebody running there. Yeah. I can go to Pisgah and you're never alone.
Yeah.
There's always somebody out on the trail, and you don't get that anywhere else.
Oh, I see.
And one of my questions was like, how much of this environment has shaped your career?
Oh, yeah, just being a runner. I mean, that's just mostly just because my dad was an athlete and he was really good at track, or he's good at basically he did the hurdles, then he did long jump, then he did the pole vault, then he did high jump. So he did mostly that. But then he got in and he coached at track or coached at South for decades.
Yeah.
And he was really great coach, loved the kids. And so, yeah, track was always like part of our life, basically. Yeah. I mean, even when my daughter, she was pole vaulting, and she was pretty good when she was younger. She was over here at Silky Field, and the track coaches there said, "Oh, are you Bob Haynes' daughter or granddaughter?" And she's like, "Yeah." It's like, your grandpa's a legend around here. So just knowing that history and just being around the track, because he's always officiated, the big track meets and had the kids at the state meet. So I'd always go over there, and just track here is everything, basically in running. So it's just a byproduct of that is like you run the Butte to Butte every year, Eugene Marathon, going to the big track meets. It's like running is life, basically. But yeah, it was, and then my grandma lived over on 24th and Emerald. So I lived in a little town out here called Marcola, but I'd ride my bike all the way from there to her house, stay and watch MTV and hang out and go to University Park. But when there's big track meets, I could hear the track and the crowds.
That's awesome.
Over the hill there. There's a little hill down to Hayward. And so I'd walk over there and just be holding on the fence and just watching all the athletes. And so, yeah, that's how
awesome.
Track fit into my life.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Been pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and also, what other place has a track like Hayward where I don't know how many people it holds now, maybe close to, over 12,000, I know that. But what other place has a track just for track and field?
Yeah.
That big?
Yeah.
Is there any place in the U.S.?
I don't think any place in the U.S. I think the place that gets overlooked in Eugene is south.
Yeah.
I've traveled all over this country, and finding accessible tracks is hard.
Really?
It is a hard thing to do here.
I didn't know that.
Schools make it difficult, and I understand why. Mm-hmm. But being able to go down to South Eugene and hang out on a track and then go run some bark chips and come back to the track and just hang out, I think it's ingrained, right?
Yeah, yeah. I know. I was just over there the other day. I did a little video because I had run from the practice track at South to Spencer's and back because you told me.
He's got to do official buttes.
The war starts on the valley floor. Yeah. But yeah, and it just reminded me of my dad always being over there every day. And I think even like, you know, as I said, Emma Coburn and her teammates, they train over there when they're here. Yeah. Like it's just so accessible. Yeah. It's just that I didn't know that was unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know, the old track scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious, like, how much of that culture has shaped your bow hunting, getting into bow hunting, kind of pioneering the things you've done?
Yeah, I mean, running was always a big part of it because I thought that the more endurance I'd have, the better I'd be on the hunt.
Yeah.
And then when I first started, most people don't want to think they have to run to bow hunt. They're just like, what? This guy's saying you got to run a marathon? Yeah. Which I never said. I just did it. So yeah, I got a lot of pushback for a long time. People talking shit about me, you know, saying that, you know, you don't need to train like a professional athlete to bow hunt type thing. And so I, you know, that was like a big deal in hunting. People don't like when you change things up, right? They, you know, people have been hunting for hundreds, thousands of years. Yeah. They weren't running to prepare. So I got a lot of pushback. Now it's like more, it's kind of I don't want to say cool thing, but.
You can say you're cool.
No. But I do the lift, run, shoot. Yeah. And now I have people coming to do it with me. Yeah. So it's just like, yeah, you can hate on it, but some people think it's like a good idea, I guess, or interesting. So it's, it's been crazy. Running was always just my thing and what I did to prepare. And now it's, you know, kind of grown from there. Yeah. But
because you were one of the first people to kind of pioneer biking to go run or biking to go hunt, right?
Biking?
Yeah, because you used to bike on Forest Service roads because the gates are closed and you can't drive a vehicle.
Yeah, and
how many people were going to do that?
Yeah, there's one other guy and then whoever was with me, but this guy named Kurt Brace, he worked for the city of Eugene forever. And all I know that when we started to do that, it's like biking on logging roads, loose gravel, and you got to keep your ass on the seat, otherwise your quads get freaking worked. And I was, you know, I would take people up there to do that. Like I showed you that picture of my wife flipping off the camera from, I think, one of our first dates. But I would take people up there and they'd be walking and puking and like, I thought it was fun. I like seeing people suffer, right?
That's awesome.
And it was hard. But yeah, so right then, even though I wasn't going 100 miles back into the wilderness, that was hard in its own way. And so I was like, God dang, the better shape I'm in, the further I can get, the better opportunity I have at finding animals that haven't been pressured because people haven't been back here. Yeah. And so, yeah, that was like a big advantage that I had just with being in shape. And yeah, that was back in the 90s.
That's awesome.
And then it translated to, I did my first marathon like in 2002, the Gorge Marathon.
There you go.
So yeah, just kind of a evolution, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's always been like the motivator?
For running or for what?
For both. For hunting, like, right? You could go hunt easy places. Yeah. Right? There's tons of easy places to go hunt.
Yeah. The motivation has been killing a big bull with an arrow really hard. Yeah. No matter where you are. When you're deep in the wilderness, it's even harder because not only are you by yourself, generally I was, because my buddy who we started bow hunting with, this is Roy here on this table, but he moved to Alaska, and so I was by myself in the wilderness. So that was hard, but then also killing one of these big bulls with an arrow and then getting it out was very hard. So the draw was this is something not very many people are good at.
Yeah.
Could I be good at it? It was like a test.
There you go.
And so when I first, I've killed a bull my first year, a spike bull, a young bull, but then I've, killed every year since, and it's never easy.
Yeah.
So I've always thought that no matter how hard I work, it's very challenging.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep trying to get better and improving, and hopefully still get it done. And so it's just one of those things that you can't master bow hunting.
Yeah.
It's just so difficult, and these animals are so good at staying alive. It takes everything I have to be able to get it done every year. So that's what I like about it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think it's tough, right? Because I think when we say we're going to get better and we're going to have this, right? It's a hard thing to define that success, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially in track, right? The game changes and it's like, okay, you won this race. Now, can you do it again, right? That success is always getting redefined.
Right.
And I imagine it's the same thing in hunting.
Yeah.
It's constantly changing. It's never going to get easier.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And, to your point, I think too, once I do kill a bull, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to its life and the sacrifice, but it's like, that doesn't mean that's done.
Yeah. It's on to the next.
On to the next.
Yeah.
And so it's never over.
Yeah.
The grind is never over.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you did it. It doesn't mean anything for next year.
Yeah.
Like what the race that you win, that doesn't have any bearing on the next race.
Does it?
That's what some people, I don't know. I think some people don't like stuff like that. A lot of people do rest on their laurels. I have to, I'm not saying I'm above anybody, but it's like, it's hard answering that bell every time.
Yeah.
It's just like, God, do I got to do this again? It's tough. I love bow hunting. I love the challenge, but it's like, it makes me anxious every year thinking about,
I love that.
Am I going to be able to get it done this year?
Yeah.
Because it is so difficult. It could easily, if I don't get the break that I need, could easily not.
Yeah.
And that's, when this is what I'm supposed to be good at,
Yeah.
This is supposed to be my thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know in my own head whether I'm going to be able to get it done. That's pressure.
Yeah.
And I think some people, they'd rather avoid pressure.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. And that's fine too.
Yeah.
If they're happy.
Those are the moments I love. I love that anxious period.
Yeah.
I love that. I feel at home. It's the only time I feel like I can be my most genuine self.
Right.
When it's like, this is it. This is the moment.
Yeah.
And right, you stand on the 1500 line. It goes really fast, right? It's 3 minutes. The ultra, you have a long time to figure it out. But in that moment, you have to make the decision. Like, when the gun goes off, we're not hurt.
Yeah.
We're not hurt for a really long fucking time. And I kept saying to myself, like, I want to get to the fun part. And I told my team that. Like, we came through the first loop, and I was like, I want to get to the fun part.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's the fun part? I was like, when everything's going wrong.
Oh, right.
When everything's going wrong and it doesn't feel like I can take any more steps
Yeah.
is when the fun part begins.
Well, because when it feels good, anybody can do that.
Yeah.
Anybody. It's like if you just run when you feel good, that's everyone.
Yeah.
But then as soon as it starts to get uncomfortable, most people quit. So that I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That is the fun part.
And sometimes I screw up, right? I get to the fun part too soon where like I go out too fast and I was like, oh, this is a blast. I did that a ton in my marathon training. We'd do these long 20-mile grinds, right? And Ryan Hall was helping me. And he's like, man, you got to slow down. I was like, but this is the fun part.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can't have fun the whole time, man.
So just to clear it up, the fun is pain.
Oh, yeah. That's the blast.
Yeah. That's what Courtney always says that too. She's in the pain cave and she likes to explore and like make it bigger. So, but there is that fine line between getting to the pain cave too soon.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I had enough time. Now I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I always struggle with knowing what the limit is. And I've only been. It seems weird.
No.
I mean, maybe I sound like an idiot, but like I remember when I was running in Boston with Lance over there. That was the one time where I'm like, I can't do this, but my goal was just to get a picture with him because he was like larger than life at that time. And at first I went and I was like, oh, I'm going to find Lance at Boston. I knew he was running. I'm going to try to get a picture with him. Somebody has to take a picture because he's like, so I was like running and I like mostly selfishly, I'm like, I don't know if I've been with him long enough for somebody to get a picture. So he was like, looked like he was taking off and just so strong. And I was just almost on the verge of blowing up. I thought I'm going to have to walk, but I'm just like, I got to stay with him. So I was just like focused, it's like running harder than I should have been and thinking I'm going to blow up, but I got to stay with him as long as possible. And by myself, I would never have done that. Yeah. But I was just like, no, I'm going to go, you know, burst in flames, but that's all right. And then I did it. And then I started to feel better. Yeah. I never would have got to that place. Yeah. Because I would have slowed down way back there. So now it made me think about all the times where I thought I needed to slow down or I was done. If I would have just kept pushing, maybe my body would have responded. Yeah. To me, that's what's hard. Yeah. Is knowing when to push, when to let up. Yeah. It's just that decision. And then what happens if I do push? Yeah. I mean, you probably have to do it all the time in the track though, right?
Yes and no. But I imagine like to go back to hunting and to go back to like biking out on these roads, right? I imagine the curiosity is like, what's on the next side of this ridge? Yeah. Is there a bigger bull on the other side of this ridge?
Yeah, that's always the goal.
Can I get through this next ridge? And there's got to be a time where you look back and you're like, fuck, I have a long way back to the truck.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, what's the unknown is what keeps us going. Because you're always like, you want to get to the promised land, right? You want to find where there's just giant bulls. And it's just like, oh my God, nobody's ever been here. There's never been a boot track here. And so that is the goal, no matter how unrealistic it is. Yeah. And that's, you know, with running in life, maybe it's the same thing. It's like, what's pushing you to get over that next ridge? But with hunting, that is a big part of it, for sure. It's just exploring. Yeah. So there's different ways to explore. It's like, your own limit, physical limit, exploring that threshold, or as you said, the ridge, which is an easy one to, easy illustration to see.
Have you been in that position where you're so far out and it's like, I don't know how I'm going to make it back, whether the weather changes or something comes up, maybe you misjudge water. I don't know everything. I don't know the rhythm of hunting. Yeah. But have you been out there and you're like, man, it's going to be a long hike.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. You always, you're always further. It's way easier going to the unknown than coming back. Yeah. You know what I mean? Cause it's like, then you've already seen the country you just went back to. So it's like, it takes a while to get back, but when you're pushing hard, getting after animals, and then, you get in it's like you keep going cause you think, oh, I just need to get this break. So you're following this animal or this herd. And you always think it's this effort is what's going to pay off. Then when it doesn't, and then you look at how far you went or where you're at, it happens all the time. Yeah. All the time. So you just have to be prepared to either when I was hunting the wilderness and writing that backcountry bow hunting book and doing all that, it's like I always had camp on my back. So to me, I had to carry the weight all the time, like the 40 or 50 pounds, but I never had to get back to a camp. I had it all with me. So that was a big advantage. Sometimes there's times when big storms would move in, and one time there was this old outfitter camp, and I got in this, they left a tent there, got in there, and I was soaked. I mean, it was nasty. So without that, it would have been pretty dicey, but
that's awesome.
Try to survive. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you talked about being up on Kodiak one time when we were out running. Yeah. And that's tough country.
Yeah. Kodiak is just, when you're deer hunting there, it's the first week, usually went around Halloween. So first week in November, the bucks are rutting, but the weather is nasty. Of course, the bear, they're trying to get the last fish. And there's a late run usually there around that time, maybe a few fish coming in. So the bear are down on the water, or if rifle hunters have to deal with this. I didn't with the bow, but if there's a rifle shot that goes off, the bear come to it because they know that something died. Really? So that's like a dinner bell, a rifle shot. So if you're rifle hunting on Kodiak and you shoot, then you're checking your shoulder over your shoulder all the time.
I would never have thought about that.
Yeah, it's but with a bow, still, even though I'd kill bucks with an arrow, and my buddy Roy, he was like the master there. But you kill a buck downwind, the bear are going to smell the blood, so you're watching downwind all the time.
Wow.
Because a bear would smell blood or a dead animal from miles.
Yeah.
So whatever you just know whatever ways that wind is going, you better be checking what's coming up the scent trail.
That's amazing.
Because that's how, and they don't really have any natural predators.
Yeah.
There's, a brown bear can be 1,200, 1,400, 1,000 pounds. They're used to calling the shots.
Yeah.
So when they come in and they want like your deer, they're going to get it. I mean, or somebody's going to die. Yeah. So that's just the way it goes. But yeah, that's fun.
That's awesome. It really puts my butte stories to shame. I'm like, if I slip on a rock, I have to walk 500 feet back to my car.
I know. Well, it's, hunting, it is different, but it's all challenge. It's all, there's all risk and everything. But there's some pretty specific risks with hunting for sure. Yeah. Mostly it's the country. Yeah. The country is unforgiving. You know how big mountains are. Yeah. The animals definitely like a big predator like that. I mean, that's what that skull there is from a brown bear, that big one. So
massive. Yeah,
that one, it was 9 foot 6 inches. That's the biggest brown bear I've killed.
Where was it?
That was up let's see. There's a bay. What's the bay called? But it's where the Alaska Peninsula goes off.
Okay.
And so it's right kind of in that bay right there, right at the mainland. And it was right up in there.
That's awesome.
But yeah, big bear. Yeah, they're giant.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
But yeah. Huh. Is that your question?
Those are my questions. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thanks for asking them. Yeah, it's I didn't anticipate you asking questions, but you've had a podcast too. I mean, you're good. You're good at sharing ideas. You're good at, your stories are awesome. I mean, you got so much to offer. I'm so thankful you agreed to come on the podcast.
I kind of scrolled through the podcast list and I was like, this one might be a flop for you. So.
No, heck no. I mean, just that story of going from, being an elite track athlete to a 100-mile ultra, that hasn't happened very much.
But it only makes sense in my head.
Yeah, well, but has anybody done it?
I don't know. Ethan talked about it.
Yeah.
And he was like, you have to be one of the only guys who's ever run as fast as you have and lined up for a 100-mile race.
Yeah, an Olympian on the track to 100. I don't know anybody who's done it.
Yeah, it's an obscure statistic, right?
Yeah, but you've looked for those before,
no,
right?
I have not. No. This is Kyle Merber. He transitioned to running a marathon, and his goal was sub 2:20. And then he found a random statistic that there was 3 other people, Bernard Lagat, Matt Tegenkamp, Galen Rupp, and he was like, I'm going to etch my name. And he, for some reason, I can't remember, he had a tough day. It was just a tough day at New York.
Yeah.
And he just missed his goal. And then I swooped in, and I was that 4th guy to run, I think it was like sub 335 and sub 220 in the marathon.
Yeah.
And I always looked up. There was a guy named Anthony Famighetti who was really good at a ton of different stuff. He was a great steepler. He won a couple U.S. road champs, like over like 10K, 15K. And he always called himself like the most versatile runner in the country.
Yeah.
And I always thought, man, that's really cool. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to be Centro. Like, Centro. I'm not going to be a guy who runs sub 13 minutes in the 5K. I know where my limits are. I would love to.
Yeah.
And I pushed myself to, but it just never happened. And I thought, fuck, I can do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And like, it only made sense for me to kind of evolve and keep running. This is what I've been good at, and I'm going to keep being good at it.
Yeah.
And every year, I wake up on race day and I'm nervous and I'm like, this is the fun part. Let's go prove that I can be good at this.
Yeah. What was a world record you have?
It's a relay. It's a DMR relay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also, didn't you ran under 4 in Alaska?
Yeah.
Right.
On Kodiak Island.
On Kodiak.
Yeah.
So has anybody else done that or?
There was one other guy, his name was Jack Bolus. He was a New Balance athlete out of Wisconsin. And New Balance, I can't remember the whole story. I think they built a dome in Anchorage or something for high school athletes to keep running through the winter.
Yeah.
And it was an obscure track. It was like 430 meters or something, but it was inside.
Oh.
And he broke 4, allegedly.
Okay.
And there was a guy named, I'm blanking on his name right now, Trevor Dunbar from Kodiak Island. And he was a great athlete. Came down here, ran for the Docs, had a lot of success. He's coaching at Virginia now with Vin Lanana. And he put on this, he wanted to bring track and field to Kodiak. And we went up there and like had a great time, and like a bunch of cool guys went up, and it was like, let's run fast. And the morning, you know, Kodiak, it was like a nice morning. And then probably 20, 30 minutes before the race started going off, it was like this cold, rainy, kind of snowy. And the track it's like kind of a high school track. And lane 1 had this like little pit to it. So water just stayed in it, right? So it's like this film of water. And for some reason, we kind of got it done. I ran a great race. I ran like 3:56 or something, but it was super cool to go up there and do something big.
Yeah. So that's I love that you know so much of the history and the running and the names. It's all, I mean, I don't know. It's all interesting to me. Yeah. And it's like, I think that's a big part of running is appreciating the history. Yeah. You know, and the figures that have made the sport as special as it is. And you definitely do that well. So I love hearing the stories.
I appreciate it.
And I've learned a lot from you. And I don't know, I'm super, super thankful you came on the podcast. And
thank you. Thanks for the hospitality.
Yeah, we could sit here and talk, and hopefully someday you can make me a good runner. I'm going to hire you as a coach. But thank you, Ben.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm honored.
All right. Thanks, guys. Keep hammering. All right, guys. Welcome to the brand new CameronHayes.com truck giveaway. This truck used to be red, but we got this sick, badass wrap on it to go with the theme of this giveaway. What you do in the dark matters. That means we got to train at night. We got to get better. We got to earn that edge at night. So what you do in the dark matters, out there getting in those miles, maybe shooting in the driveway in the headlights of a truck, or maybe just pushing weights in the gym. We got to do something to set ourselves apart. So that's where, hey, the night shift comes in. And this brand new 2023 Ram TRX, 702 horsepower, killer looking ride is going to go to somebody who enters to win at CameronHayes.com. Whoever that is, I'm going to fly them out here. They're going to get this ride. I'll hand them the keys and $10,000 in cash, and I hope it's you. So again, head to my website, figure out how to enter and win. Good luck. Keep hammering.